Praise you to Allah.
Yeah. You know, and keep in mind, it was Isis that had to put Osiris back together again.
All right, come on.
Does anyone know that story?
I heard it.
I heard a little bit of it.
How many pieces did she have to? How many pieces was he cut into?
Was it 9?
It was 14 pieces he was cut into, and there's 14 questions in Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1. And the last question is, what is the meaning of MGT and GCC?
GCC, come on.
So the woman has to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
All right.
Feminine principle is something.
All right. I guess we can go ahead and get started.
We're gonna have to get you to tell that story when we finally get this science and maintenance together. I want you to connect it to your wife and your, it's something about that you shared that took me to the true history of Jesus, of Joseph and Mary knowing each other since childhood. It's something about Minister Farrakhan and Mother Khadijah knowing each other since childhood. So it's something so pure and important about that dynamic.
And when we actually we did it wasn't through Zoom. I'm trying to think, what's the other thing that we used to use over the computer? Well, we did a 90-day, I guess for lack of a better word. Skype, thank you. We did a 90-day Skype courtship. And
wow.
Because we already knew each other, but we had to relearn. And I had sent her an invite on Facebook, but she didn't recognize me because last time we saw each other, I think it was 1996, and she didn't recognize the last name Muhammad. So she actually didn't accept the friendship, and I had to let her know, look, it's me, and then we reconnected on Facebook and we started talking. And then the first time we saw each other on Skype, and that was Monday night, September 7th, 2015. The first time we saw each other after all those years, we actually talked about marriage. That first, we knew, we saw it, and we just like, nope, we already know.
Minister Farrakhan said it's an instant.
Yeah.
He said, in an instant.
Yeah.
The first conversation.
So whenever I make reference to computers and Dianetics, that's because I pick her brain. She's in IT. Her background is in computers and information technology. So.
Oh wow.
All right, looks like we gotta it's filling up. We'll go ahead and get started. Open up in prayer. Attention prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Surely I am turning myself to thee, O Allah, trying to be upright. To him who originated the heavens and the earth, and I am not of the polytheist. Surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are all for Allah, Lord of the worlds. No associate has he, this am I commanded, and I am of those who submit. O Allah, thou art the King, there is no God but thee. Thou art my Lord, and I am thy servant. I have been greatly unjust to myself and do confess my faults. Please, Allah, grant me protection against my faults, for none grants protection against faults but thee. And guide me to the best of morals, for none can guide to the best of morals but thee. And please, Allah, turn away from me the evil and indecent morals, for none can turn away from me the evil and indecent morals but thee. O Allah, bless Muhammad and bless the true followers of Muhammad, as thou hast blessed Abraham and the true followers of Abraham. But surely thou art to be praised and magnified. And O Allah, make Muhammad successful and make the true followers of Muhammad successful, as thou didst make Abraham successful and the true followers of Abraham successful. For surely thou art to be praised and magnified. Ameen.
Ameen.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came to us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praise is due forever. I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is the exalted and living Christ, and now Mahdi at his right hand, and I bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is our divine reminder and our warner, the Messiah that is in our midst, the last man standing. And it's in their names I greet my family with the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu Alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Sir.
It's a beautiful thing to have another Savior's Day workshop. Savior's Day. I look forward to these meetings, the days that we have them, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I try to fill my week up with Zoom meetings so that it's like having Savior's Day every day. Before we get started, does anyone have any questions with regards to anything that has been covered up to this point?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
The meeting that took place on Wednesday, I wanted to know if you could send that to me, because I wanted to view it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Sister. And please forgive me, last week was a busy week. I had to prepare the Zoom meetings and I had to study for an exam that I had on Saturday. So my schedule was hectic last week. So hopefully things have died down and I can get these Zoom meetings out to the believers who request it. So you will be getting last week's tonight. I have it on my list of things to do. Anyone else? Any questions? Dianetics, science, math, anything related?
Just being nosy. How'd the exam go? Now I'm being nosy now.
That's okay. That's okay. We had I was in line to get promoted to captain last year, and right when the promotion got to me, the list expired, so I had to retake the promotional exam. So basically, over the course of the past couple of weeks, I've been reviewing just a little bit, but I worked Tuesday, I had Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday off. So I just locked myself in and I did a cram session for 3 days. And the interesting thing about it is I actually was using Dianetic Tech to study for this test. So I'm anxious to see if the tech worked in taking this test, but I'm close to retirement and I just want to get through these last couple of years and go to where my heart really is. My heart is in teaching, and I'm tired of running into burning buildings. My body can only take but so much, and I've been there, I've done that. I don't need to do it anymore. So,
Brother Lukeman.
Yes, sir, Brother William.
Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to offer a quick correction. This morning, I said that the neuropeptide, that serotonin was a neuropeptide.
It's a transmitter.
And that is, it's a neurotransmitter that has connection to a neuropeptide called substance P. I didn't want you to get into an exam, have that question come up and then say, well, I remember Brother Williams said neuropeptide. That's not accurate. I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
No, now that you mention it, it's actually a neurotransmitter. I'm reading a book right now. It's called The Molecules of Emotion. And the book talks about how each of the emotions that we suffer from, actually, every emotion is connected to a transmitter or a peptide. So that's kind of like where I'm researching right now. But thank you for that correct, because I would have blamed you for it, but I said, well, that's what the doctor told me, so.
But it is located in the GI system as well as the brain.
Yes, sir. It is.
But it's not a neuropeptide.
Right. Yes, sir. We just got carried away with the spirit. I mean, the class, the Zoom meetings that we have are just phenomenal. We just got, sometimes you just get carried away. But thank you for that, Brother William. Anyone else? All right. Well, we will go ahead and get started. And I pray Allah this runs smoothly. Okay, so tonight, what we will do is, a couple of days ago, I was just going through some notes, and I know for the past couple of weeks, we've been connecting the Dianetics to aspects of the Supreme Wisdom and our problem book. But it was just on my mind to go through some of my old notes and some of the old articles that I was blessed to write by Allah's grace, and actually deal with some of the ayats in the Holy Quran and make a comparison, do some word clearing, if you would, on the Arabic. Since we're told, and I'll show the ayat, Allah says in the Holy Quran that this book that we have is a book that explains all things. You know, Allah does not say that this book explains all things except Dianetics. This book explains all things except mathematics. But from what I have found just through study and research, that there's a wealth of knowledge contained in the Holy Quran on various levels. It's a book that is really three-dimensional, and based on where your passion is, Allah will speak to us through where we're passionate. And what I mean by that is, for some who had showed an interest in the chess, it was actually, I came across a statement in a chess book that I was studying back in 2003. And when I came across the statement, it was a quote by a chess master who lived in the early part of the 19th century. He had made a statement, but I said, wait a minute. I said, that statement is in the Holy Quran. So I looked up the verse in the Holy Quran, and it was in agreement with what the chess master had stated. So then I started to look a little bit deeper, and that was also the time period that I was actually in school. I was about to go to school to be a physician's assistant, and somehow life took a turn, and I went into teaching instead and found my passion in teaching, and I began to see different things in the Holy Quran that related to chess, to mathematics. And there was two statements by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that kind of, for me, tied the Holy Quran to mathematics. So that's where the journey began. So now what I'm striving to do with Allah's help is to take the tech of Dianetics and find the truths that are contained in the tech, and find those truths in our Holy Quran and in the teachings, so that we can bring the tech back to the believers, but bring it back in the language of what we already have received. And that is based on the statement that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has made with regards to marrying the supreme wisdom with the supreme tech. So tonight, inshallah, what we'll do is we'll go through Surah 94. It doesn't have there's not a lot of ayats, and we're gonna kind of cover them, not quickly, but we're not gonna go as deep as we could. And this is just to show, just to kind of like put some oil on the rusty locks, to show that the wisdom that we received through the Church of Scientology, we already have it. We just have to begin to go and dig into our Holy Quran, our supreme wisdom, and our problem book. So that's where we'll be going tonight. Any questions before we get started? Okay. So the title tonight is Expansion of the Breast and the Clearing of the Mind. And we try to always start out with this verse, Surah 16, verse 89. Allah says, and we have revealed the book to thee, explaining all things, and a guidance and a mercy and good news for those who submit. So whatever our field of study, whether it's mathematics, physics, chemistry, meteorology, whatever field that we're passionate in, there are some key principles that we will be able to find in the book that we have, that not only will give us a better understanding of the field that we're in, but will elevate us to a level of understanding that will be greater than it's most definitely the education of this world, because this education is actually declining. So we want to be able to take the Holy Quran and make it the foundation of a whole new educational system. One thing we have been taught, and I can't remember it verbatim, but again, if anyone can quote it or can bear witness to it, please do. We have been taught that anytime the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad went to speak, he only took one book with him, and that was the Holy Quran. And we, as we know, he never lost an argument. So in this new paradigm, we want to take the teachings that we've received, particularly the Holy Quran, and make it the foundation of whatever it is that we decide to apply our minds to. So this is the direction we're going. So in Surah 9,
Lukman,
yes.
Assalamualaikum. I had a question about
Okay.
Is that we, the scientists?
Well, as always, there's always one person in the group that looks down the wheel of time and has the ability to foresee different topics that will come up. I'll answer that based on what I remember the minister saying. And again, anyone who has heard this, please make reference. The we, I believe we were taught, represents those that are in sync or in harmony with or in agreement with Allah. So the we could be any one of us if we are in obedience. Has anyone heard the minister teach on that or make a statement to that regard?
I haven't, but
Sister Cheryl,
can you go back to that section? Because it said we, when we revealed the book, is that the big book, the 25,000 year history? I was just wondering.
Oh, that's okay. That's a whole nother question, because we know that there's something called the al-Kitab, which is the mother of the book. And we know that the Holy Quran that we have, as well as the Bible, only represents 6,000.
Maybe I'll get something here to eat.
6,000 years of history. So it could be that book, 25,000 years of writing, with regards to the scientists writing. So we could possibly look at it from that perspective. So I would say yes, the we could be the scientists. But now,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So from the perspective, well, you'll see how we'll use the word we with regards to the tech. But I believe I've heard the minister teach on that we represents those that were with the God, writing the history, and then we know. Well, Sister Cheryl, what do you remember hearing the minister teach on that?
I actually heard what you said. I have heard in different lectures him say it in different ways, but what you're saying, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. I like to use reference. It keeps everything clean. So, but we're going to see how this we can pertain to you and I with regards to the mission, as Sister Cheryl has said, as the 144,000. So Surah 94, it starts out, it says, have we not expanded for thee thy breast and removed from thee thy burden, which weighed down thy back, and exalted for thee thy mention? Surely with difficulty is ease. With difficulty is surely ease. And when thou art free from anxiety, work hard and make thy Lord thy exclusive object. So what we're going to do, not in depth, but enough to find some ARC or to find some harmony with the tech. We're going to go ayat by ayat. And I don't know if Brother Clinton is on. Oh, there he is, Brother Clinton. I'm going to do some Arabic tonight, brother, so we can start that process. So we're going to go ayat by ayat. We're going to take out some of the Arabic terms. We're going to clear the terms. Now, these definitions I'm getting from the Arabic actually come from an Arabic dictionary. So these aren't terms that I'm just, finding things that are synonymous. These are the actual terms from an Arabic dictionary. And you will see that some of these words in Arabic are exactly, not a little bit, but they are exactly the same terms that are used in Dianetics. So first we'll deal with expansion. So when you look at the word expansion, the name of the surah is Al-Inshara. Al-Inshara. So when we deal with the Arabic language is very mathematical. It's a very interesting and precise language. And it has the ability to open one's mind up to various levels of various degrees of understanding. But when you deal with the Arabic words, I would say maybe 99% of the words are derived from 3 consonants. The word inshara means the expansion. But when you look at inshara, as you see, there's 3 consonants. Now, the S and the H is actually one Arabic letter. That's a combined letter. So you got SH, you got R, and then you see a capitalized H. In Arabic, there's 2 different types of H's. There's a soft H and there's a hard H. So for example, when we say the word Muhammad, if you see that emphasis on the H, Muhammad, that ha, that's like the hard H. That's an emphasized H in Arabic. So when you look at the 3 consonants, you have the sound of sh, ra, and ha. And what you do is if you add the vowels in between the consonants, that's how you get the root word. So the majority of the Arabic words, the root you start with the root and then you put the letter A in there. So the root word here would be sharah, sharah. Going back to what Brother Batin spoke about, and I always have to talk about what the brother dropped in the Supreme Technology Workshop about a week or 2 weeks ago, that has had such a profound effect on everything that I study right now, where he was talking about the science of music and dealing with what's called, the fundamental. And the fundamental represents a certain tone, and then contained in the fundamental tone, you have different harmonics or variations. So when you deal with wisdom, the teachings, we could say, of the Most Honorable Muhammad represent a fundamental. And then based on our level of understanding and based on our perception, we can look into the teachings that we have received and find different harmonics. So an example of the different harmonics would be like, take someone like Brother Jabril, take someone like Mother Tinetta, take someone like Sister Ava, take someone like Brother Nori. When you take different individuals, when you hear them all teach, you can hear the teachings through all of them, and you can tell that what they're teaching has the same fundamental, but none of those student ministers sound like the other student ministers. So when you hear Sister Ava, you know that's Sister Ava. Sister Ava has her own way of expressing the teachings. She has her own harmonic that's based on the fundamental. When you hear Mother Tinetta Muhammad, it's no doubt, you can tell, if you can just read the transcripts of you already know, that's what Mother Tinetta Muhammad would say. That's the way Brother Nuri would teach. That's the way Dr. Wesley would teach. So the teachings is a fundamental. And each one of us, I'm sure Brother Frank, you can go into the teaching and pull up principles based on agriculture, correct? So that's his harmonic, but it's based on the fundamental. So the messenger gave us the fundamentals, and then the minister has taken that fundamental to another level. And then as we teach, we are bearing witness back to that prime harmonic, which is connected to the fundamental. Does that make sense? So when you look at the root word, by changing the root word, you produce different derivations of the word. And you have different words, but these words actually will have some kind of a connection. It's a very mathematical language. So what happens is you look at the ayats. Now you can look at the verse of the ayats in the Holy Quran almost like a puzzle. And from what I have seen, just based on my own study, that when you look at the different derivations of the Arabic, the ayats in the Holy Quran actually open up to give of a variety of meanings. That it gives a variety, but also gives more depth. So it's like you treat, I think I wrote in here, if you look at the ayats in the Holy Quran like an equation, every time you put in a different input in an equation, you'll get a different output, meaning a different result or a different answer. And the same thing happens in the Holy Quran. Now, some people say, well, brother, we ain't, and I've experienced this before, where some individuals might say, well, brother, we're not supposed to make, we're not supposed to interpret. But two things that I try to stand on is, if that was the case, then Allah wouldn't give us the rules of interpretation. That's number one. And number two, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan states in Closing the Gap, he says that we shouldn't be intellectual cowards, that we should dig into the wisdom and find the jewels that we can find. So then what happens is, and this ties back to what Sister Deborah L. said on this past Wednesday, when she made reference to the crystals, that you can have one crystal, but based on our relationship to that crystal, every individual will see a different color. Does that make sense? So when we can see the variations of the teachings, my humble opinion is that that's Allah in direct communication with you and I, and that makes our reading of the Holy Quran personal. So from what I've been taught is that when we pray, we are communicating with Allah, and when we read the Holy Quran, Allah is communicating with us. So we receive personalized instructions, we receive a personalized teaching, and then it's not meant for us to hold on to ourselves, but we should share it with the believers. That way we all can grow together. So that's what we hope to do with this group. We want to do the same thing with the Holy Quran as well as the Dianetics. Allah says in the Holy Quran, and certainly we have made the word to have many connections for their sake, so that they may be mindful. So there's not just one way to understand the Holy Quran, because Allah's wisdom has length, it has width, and it has depth. The wisdom is not limited. We've been taught in the Holy Quran that if all the seas were ink and all the trees were pens, we can never exhaust the words of Allah. So as we look at the scriptures, there's many different directions and many ways we can receive the wisdom through the Holy Quran. And I have put it here that the ayats are like equations. So the Holy Quran is a living book. Mm-hmm. And one way we have experienced this is during Ramadan. We come across some verses and it's almost as if that's a brand new verse. We've never seen it before. Now we know no one came in and added a verse in the Holy Quran during that year, but there's something about that past year we've encountered certain things. So there's certain verses in the Holy Quran that have meaning to us, and there's certain ayats that's as if we have never seen them before. That's because the book is a living thing.
And I got to say something. You turned us, or either you or brother turned us. You said you were speaking about Dianetics, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, brother. We get what we get out of it. That was profound to me. Instead of me, and my Dianetics studies even going better. I'm studying things over again. You said get what you can get out of it, because that's, Allah speaking to us relevant to what we're doing. That other verse reminded me of that, but that's all I wanted to say.
I think Brother Batin had made the statement that, don't try to understand everything. Just try to get what you can get, because as you go through the Dianetics books, you'll see there's going to be certain topics that are repetitious, you know, and every time L. Ron Hubbard will address certain things, as the books, as you go further in the different books, he'll attack certain subjects from different perspectives, and he'll give an evolved understanding of that concept. And throughout the text, you'll see certain concepts actually evolve into greater things, and his ability to explain certain contexts or concepts actually becomes simplified. Many people found Dianetics difficult to read. I know I found it difficult. To me, it was like a science book. I felt like I was back in college. But as you go further in the other books in Dianetics, he actually will explain some of the same topics, but his method of presentation actually becomes a little more easier to understand. But I think that's what Brother Batin has said. Don't try to understand everything, because you'll lose your mind trying to understand everything. Just take what you can take, learn what you can learn, and then just, you know, be patient with the process. So as the individual evolves, you know, the perception will become deeper. And if the perception becomes deeper, that takes us back to Surah 96, where Allah says that, you know, Allah teaches man by the pen what man knew not. So as we're learning these concepts and we're finding these jewels, it's not because we're so wise. It's because we have one in power and authority that's opening this wisdom up to us. Does that make sense? And if we keep that mindset, that it keeps us in a humble state, you know, because we you know, not anyone in this room, but sometimes when we receive wisdom, we make the mistake of thinking that we're the author of it. And when we think we're the author of it, Allah has the right to take that away from us. And as the Holy Quran says, you know, when they kindle a fire, you know, Allah takes away their sight and leaves them deaf, dumb, and blind, and in darkness they perceive not. So we are blessed to share the wisdom. And if we are sharing it, it's because Allah sees fit to reveal that to us and through us for the benefit of one another. But none of us can take credit for anything that we share. Again, Allah teaches man what man knew not. So when we look at al-inshara, the actual meaning is to make clearly visible. It means to explain or to describe. It means to open. It also means to be relaxed, to be at joy. And the word tashri actually means a postmortem examination. And I think the reason why I put that in there, a postmortem examination in the game of chess, if you play tournament chess, at the end of the game, you sit down and you have what's called a post-mortem. And what that allows you to do is the two chess players, if they're favorable and they agree, they will actually sit down and go over the chess game. And each player will discuss their strategies and their tactics as to why they did what they did, so that both chess players, their chess understanding will expand. Because they pick the one chess player will pick the brain of the other and say, well, at this point, why did you do this? And then the chess player will say, well, I was setting up this to go over here. And they say, oh, now I see it. So the post-mortem was actually connected to a thought that had came to mind to expand our understanding. Also, the games that we lose are the ones that we actually learn the most from. Now, the word breast, the Arabic is sadraka, and it comes from the root word sadara, and it means to go out. It means to proceed, to rise. Now, if we say to rise, so to expand the breast, if we're looking at the word rise, then expand the breast could also mean what from the perspective of Dianetic language? Someone help me out here. Think of the word rise. Where do we use the word rise at with Dianetics?
Is it on the tone scale?
On the tone scale, yes, ma'am. So now we're going to start to see how some of these Arabic terms will actually correspond to the Dianetics. The word also means the front part. Now there's something specific that we're going to deal with this. That's why I have it in bold print. And the breast also means heart, and heart also means personality, the emotional or the moral nature. So if we're talking about expanding the breast, and if we take the word breast to represent rise, and we're dealing with tone scale, and we're also talking about emotions and personality, then how could the word expand the breast be used to describe Dianetic technology?
Brother, I'm thinking about, I don't want to use someone, I'm thinking about erasure. Is that could be incorrect?
Well, Sister Cheryl, you do this every week. You must be psychic, and you see the PowerPoint before I put it up. But yes, we're going to get to that.
Okay, all right. Okay. Thank you, brother.
No, thank you. I say that just to have, it's funny because you always can, it's like you can see where this is going. Mm-hmm. But who else would like to take a shot? Expand the breast. And no cognition is wrong. Whatever your cognition is, that is your cognition. So, there's nothing worse than someone asking a question, and it happens in school, and then the teacher gives the answer, and then the person says, oh, I knew that was the answer. I should have. Well, every cognition, if it's your cognition, then that's fine. But does anyone have a way of connecting that one ayat, expand the breast, with regards to personality, emotion, and rising? And I didn't get a chance to see who actually said the tone scale, but we'll connect it with the tone scale. Does anyone see the connection?
Brother Lukman,
Yes.
this is Sister Sharon.
Okay.
Dealing with the personality, I had said a few weeks ago, for me, that's my personal reality, dealing with, what I believe is the truth, dealing with engrams and being audited, bringing me, up out of that emotional state of mind into, what's morally correct. Mm-hmm. So that's what came to my mind, just, being audited and being able to rise from, being low on the tone scale, dealing with emotions, my personal reality, what I think is my personal reality. So.
Most definitely. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Sister Pamela.
The cognition I had first was, we just finished in the study group, study guide number 18. And when you mentioned expansion, at the end of that slide, you said, usually when you play chess, you review with each player the move that they made. And so in study guide number 18, I felt like it was a review of what we did not pass as a nation the first time. And that this time, if we expand ourselves using what the minister has given us, and then also using Dianetics, we'll be able to rise above emotion and expand our breasts more to be able to pass the test.
Most definitely. That's a beautiful way of presenting that. So that the last part of study guide 18 is almost like a postmortem.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am. Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that who's that clean brother right there? Is that Brother Eric?
That's his brother, no?
Brother Eric, we have Brother Eric, we have Sister Barbara. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Walaikum salam.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Expansion, when you're talking about it, deal with emotion, as we said. But dealing with emotion, you have to also take into consideration the breathing side of it, because the more you are in anger, your breathing becomes faster. So that means you get more expansion and contraction, expansion, contraction. And at the same time, when you are more at ease, you have a breathing that is easier, right? So at that point, you are more in control of your emotion. And at the same time, your heartbeat is controlled, because all of that is related. And that's why we have to go into the mind of the person to see how we can help him to regulate his own thinking, because the thinking is what caused the emotion to rise. And the thinking is what also caused the emotion to lower down. And you can only go up the scale once you get control of the lower rung of the emotion on the tone scale. Because anywhere below, from 2.0 and below, you are in a dangerous zone. So now you have to start to climb up to at least the 3.0 to start dealing effectively with your emotion.
Yes, sir. When we deal with the science of when you deal with the science or different aspects of meditation, there are certain emotional states that produce identifying breathing or breath patterns. So the emotion causes the breathing pattern, and what meditation teaches is to control the breath to control the emotion. And as you were talking, what came to mind was when we go into the problem book, there is, I believe it's question number 5 of the problem book, that one of the uncles, it talks about his breathing was more than, there was one uncle breathed at one rate, and this other uncle, his breathing had surpassed it. And one of the things that resulted from his breathing more air per, I think it's per cubic foot, then it gives a whole list of, and he takes this medication and this medication, this medication. So what you're saying actually aligns up with regards to the problem book, with regards to the breathing. But that's a beautiful observation as well. Thank you, Brother Eric.
You're welcome, sir.
So now, since the heart represents thinking as well as the front part of something, we can align this with the front part of the brain. So now we're going to look at a little anatomy. So when you look at what's called the frontal part of the brain, or the frontal lobe, you have.
Brother Luke, man.
Yes.
Can you just go back to that screen you just came off of the first and come right back?
This one right here?
All right, I got it. Go ahead.
You good? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the frontal lobe is the part of the brain that involves the working of cognitive ability, problem solving, memory, language, judgment, and sexual behaviors. This part of the brain is called the control panel of our personality and our ability to communicate. And this quote was taken from a website called healthline.com. Brother William, you can drop any jewels anytime you so desire, brother. Now, if the frontal part involves cognitive ability, problem solving, memory, language, judgment, and sexual behaviors, then aberration in this area of the brain would reduce cognitive ability, inhibit problem solving, reduce or removes memory, distorts language, reduces our ability to make judgments, and causes aberrant sexual behaviors. So when we look at, let me go back. So when we look at aberration and we look at engrams, we're looking at all these held down sevens, I guess you could say, in the front part of the brain. Allah says in the Holy Quran that he seizes the disbeliever by the forelock. And if you look at the word forelock, when you clear the word forelock, it means the front part of something. It also means the frontal part of something. And I believe it's in the first chapter of Dianetics. He talks about a journey in the 3 inches in the back of the forehead, if I'm not mistaken. So we're talking about a science that deals with the inner workings of this aspect of our thinking. But here's where the aberrations take place. So if we were clear, or if we were at an optimal level, then our cognition would be through the roof. We would be solving problems left and right without even thinking about it. Our memory, you know, we're taught that Master Farad Muhammad has the ability to recite history day by day for 150,000 years. You know, and there's one in particular I'm going to touch on here just because I saw a connection between the supreme wisdom and the Dianetics with regards to language. But aberration reduces our ability to make judgments. And that's why we make decisions that we shouldn't make. And when you look at the way society is right now, everywhere we look, there's aberrant sexual behavior. But particularly with language, I found this was interesting. L. Ron Hubbard says, he talks about what's called an occlusion demon. He says an occlusion demon can be of a much higher strength and breadth. He can be created with the phrase, don't talk, or never talk back to your elders, or you can't talk here. Who said you could talk? Any of these phrases might produce a stammerer. So many of us remember growing up, we were told you don't speak unless spoken to, or just shut up. You know, so some of us went through life, and these were the things that we picked up as we were children, and it might have produced a stammer. Now, what is that? According to L. Ron Hubbard, it's one who speaks with difficulty repeating sounds or words and often stopping before saying things correctly. Brother William.
Assalamu alaikum, family. But very quickly, just to say, it jumped out as an occlusion demon because we know in medicine, strokes, some form of stroke is because a blood vessel is occluded or clotted or blocked up. And then the rest of that clause or phrase there, speaking about the speaking, some of your more prominent strokes that we are familiar with occur in an area. It's in the frontal lobe, and the area is called the Broca area. And that is one of the areas once impacted that allows a person to be able to understand and know what they want to say, but not be able to articulate it. So that connection with medicine jumped out for me.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.
And bear witness to that, because I'm on a, how to call that? I had stroke twice. And at times when I'm trying to say words, I can see the word in my mind, but I cannot say it. And this is very, very, very obvious to me because, and I know that problem. That's why I don't go souping anymore at the church, because, you know, once you cannot answer a question on the spot, so they might think it's because you are in violation of ethics. So at that point, to avoid all those problems, I prefer to remain at home.
Yes, sir.
What my brother says correct.
All right. So now what does the lessons say about stammering?
The stammering must speak clear.
It says the dumb must speak plainly.
Yes.
Stammering tongue is speaking clear. Now it's funny, speaking clear. So we have the term stammering and we have the term clear, both of which we can find in Dianetics. It says he covers the prophecy of the Bible and also the Holy Quran in the Word. I think, Brother Eric, you were dropping some jewels on this last week, weren't you?
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah.
Yeah.
Purified one, except the purified one also.
So now we look at the phrase, expand your breast. So we've cleared the terms. So now let's rearrange this. So from an allegorical point of view, this could mean to make visible, to make discernible, or to explain our emotional or mental state. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Or can we see the correlation between expand your breast and see how it relates to the tech of Dianetics? So we see a marriage there, correct?
That's right.
Okay, praise be to Allah. So to explain means to make plain or understandable, to give the reason or cause of, to show the logical development or relationship of, let me go back. So we've made one marriage. So now let's see if we can marry things and get a little more precise with it now. So to expand your breast could mean to make our emotional and mental states plain and understandable. Can we accept that one? Can we accept that definition? Okay. Can we say that this verse corresponds to the ability to give the reason for our mental and emotional states?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can we say that this could mean to explain the cause of our mental states? Brother William, you got a question?
Not a question, but I wanted to ask you to maybe take a look at how what you're saying is transpiring on two different fronts. Because it's occurring in the frontal lobe where cognition and thought logic takes place, where one mentally makes the connections in a logical sequence, as well as that being the area that, even though if the logic can be put properly, the language component is also in that same area, to where even a person that may have the logic may not be able to express it or articulate it. And then there could be an impact on both functions when we're talking about the mentally dead or being raised in this fashion. I just wanted to point out that both of those operations take place in that one lobe of the brain.
So understanding or cognition, so it's not enough to just know the wisdom, we have to be able to articulate it.
Can I?
Is that what you're saying, Brother William?
Yes, sir. And that either or both can be impacted if we are not in alignment with things. We may not be able to formulate the logic, or we may not be able to articulate it, or it could be both. We just, don't know. It's on that individual.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Brother Eric, Sister Barbara.
Yes.
Yes, sir. In fact, what you're saying and what Brother William just said, if you look at problem number 13 itself, it's very much correlated to that. You see, it compares Islam with mathematics and mathematics with Islam. And both of them require that, in the case of mathematics, it requires that you use logic to solve any problem. And also it goes with result. And Islam deal with rational, and at the same time you have to be sane. Both of them, you cannot insanity with either one of those two. And with that, it brings you right into the thinking that we are certainly seeking for in the truth, the thinking of God, because everything has to be rational.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Brother William.
I'm sorry, I just didn't lower my hand.
Okay, all right, no problem.
Yes.
All right. Brother Eric, you got another statement or question?
So same thing, I'm trying to lower my hand.
Okay, no problem. So I think we can agree that the Dianetics, the tech, is an ARC with the first verse. Can we agree on that?
Which one is the first verse?
Any questions up to this point? Anyone disagree?
You talk about the first verse of a Holy Quran?
No. Expand
Okay.
your breast.
Okay, yes, okay.
Okay. So now we'll go to the next verse, the removal of the burden. So this is what the ayat looks like in Arabic, and the word wawadana actually means removal. The root word is, and it's in Arabic, there's 4 sounds that aren't in English. If you've heard brother Sultan Rahman teach, I mean, the brother's Arabic is beautiful, but the root word is wada. And what it means is to make something a priority, to put something into force, to come to an agreement. It means to lift or to release. Now, is there any terms in Dianetic that deals with force, agreement, and release? Anyone?
When you when the person
ARC.
Say what?
ARC.
How so? Are you talking about agreement and ARC? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Most definitely. Has anyone seen the word release or lifting in Dianetic?
actually when you are auditing someone, you are trying to help the person to get to a point of release.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to the point of release, that means the person feel lighter and better with himself.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have reached a good point to stop your session.
Yes, sir. Most definitely. So in this ayat, the word removal corresponds to a process that's used in Dianetics, the release. And then when you look at the word burden is wizraka. And it comes from the root word wazara. That's the root word. And it means to assist. Now, I know you've seen the word assist in Dianetics, correct?
Plenty.
You've seen, so the word wazara also means a heavy load. Can we say that's synonymous with a heavy engram?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so the burdens that we carry are the sins or crimes that have been done to us, but we also carry some of the guilt of things that we have done to others, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the one thing that we were told in study guide number, I believe it's study guide number 7, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says to get rid of guilt, because Allah knew who we were when he found us. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we are here, and I've heard different student ministers teach on this, if we are here, it's not so much because we joined the nation, it's because Allah chose us to be a part of this nation.
Mm-hmm.
So we are here because we were chosen, even though we have our faults. You know, Allah saw past our faults. He still sees the good that's in us. It's like in mathematics, you know, what is the absolute value of -7? Anyone?
-7.
What's the absolute value of a negative number?
Oh.
So if I give you -7, what is the absolute value?
0, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The absolute value of a number is only the distance it is from 0. And here 0 means the eternal. So the absolute value of a number, since Allah is the absolute, we could say that the absolute value is the way that Allah perceives us. So even though we might see ourselves as a negative number, Allah will see the positive or the good that's in us. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, praise be to Allah.
But
Go ahead, brother Eric. You got something?
no, I'm just reflecting on what you just said. I said, if it's negative, the only time you can bring a negative into a positive is by multiplying it to another negative.
No, the absolute value of a number is always positive, because the absolute value is only describing its distance from zero.
That's correct.
So when you look at the absolute value of a number, it's always positive. So the way that I would teach mathematics when I was teaching in the prison, because the absolute value of a number, you indicate an absolute value of a number, you put the negative number, you put it between two bars. And those two lines or two bars represents the absolute value. And I would teach the brothers in the prison that even though that -7 is behind bars, Allah still sees positive in that number.
Wow.
I got it.
Okay. Praise be to Allah.
Right.
So we see ourselves, we are our own worst critic. And we should be grateful that Allah does not look at us the way we look at ourselves.
Think about that.
So the removal of the burden could mean, brother Imani, yes. Or is it? Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So the absolute value, if you take the phrase in its totality, is defined in terms of the only absolute. And the only absolute is Almighty God Allah.
Yes.
Just it.
Actually, the absolute is one of Allah's attributes. And when you look at it from a mathematical theology, the only thing that makes us see ourselves as negative is our distance from Allah. Just as a negative number is only, the absolute value is only showing the distance it is from zero.
And I'm looking at it in terms of the totality of the sentence structure. In other words, you have the, and then you have absolute, and then you have value. So I'm looking at it in those terms. When you look at it as the, well, that is the definite article. And then you have absolute. Well, beyond that, hardly anything is defined other than in terms of those first two words. That's how I'm looking at it.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Go ahead, scientist.
Another scientist on the line. So removal of the burden could mean to make the removal of heavy loads, sins, or crimes a priority.
Wow.
It could mean to remove the ridges, to unburden the mind, or to allow one to become force or cause. Can we agree to that? So the first thing we want to look at is we want to expand for thee thy breast, meaning we want to expand our mind, expand our tone, raised up on the tone scale. And how do we do that? We got to have our burdens removed. So this surah 94 is almost like it's describing auditing. So in order for us to rise on the tone scale, the burdens have to be removed. The ridges have to be removed. So does everyone understand? Is there anyone that does not understand what a ridge is in Dianetics terminology? Because I don't want to go forward if there's a misunderstood.
Brother Lukman, if you can go over what a ridge is really quickly, please.
Okay. Now, who is that? Because I can't see everyone. Who was that just made that statement?
Deborah. You see?
Okay. So a ridge is to make it just to make it down to its lowest term, it's a point of misunderstanding. So for example, a couple of weeks ago, we dealt with a formula, and we looked at that formula and we plugged in numbers based on the actual facts to calculate the circumference of the planet Earth. But when you look at the formula, C equals, we use pi times D. There were, if we don't understand what each one of those variables are, those we would call a ridge. So when there's a ridge, then the flow, the energy of our thought can't flow through because it hits a ridge. So what happens is, and again, I think we've been programmed like this. When we're put into an environment to do mathematics and we try to flow and we hit something that we don't understand, it becomes a ridge. It causes us to disperse, meaning we will shy away from that. So in Dianetics, you have flow, you have ridges, and you have dispersals. And we use the same concept to understand the equation. So the ridge could mean on this level, just a point where we just don't understand. Brother Rashid.
Yeah, I was going to say that example that you use of the water hose really helped me understand that.
Okay, and that's funny because that came to mind. But all of us, you know, when we were children, we'd be outside playing, and you might have a garden hose. So you're drinking water from the garden hose. This was back when you could actually drink water from a garden hose. You can't do that now. And as each child comes to get the water, you put a little bend in it, and it stops the water flowing. And then, you know, when your sister or your brother goes to drink, you open it up real quick and you try to splash them in the face. But when you fold up that hose, you're causing a ridge, and a ridge is designed to stop the flow of something. Sister Deborah, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so a ridge is anything that we don't understand. So if we look back on subjects that we have studied, even if we look back on Dianetics or things that caused us to stop studying, or in the words of Dianetics, it caused the students to blow. It was a word that we didn't get cleared, or a word that we didn't understand, and that word was a ridge, and that got us to the point where we say, no, I just can't read this book. So we stopped. Perfect. So the removal of the burden, we could say, means to make someone effective or operative. It means to translate an idea into action. It's, in the words of Dianetics, it's our ability to convert intention, which is potential beingness, into actuality, which is actual beingness. Brother Rashid, you still have a question, or are you good?
No, sir, I'm sorry, I gotta get my hand down.
Okay, I got it. I'm good. Okay. So we got to expand for thee thy breast and remove from thee thy burden. And both of these ayats, can we see how they line up with Dianetics? Okay.
And remember, the burden of sin is transgression, isn't it? You call that transgression, and transgression in Dianetics has to do with ethics. And once you violate your ethics, everything brings you down.
Yes, sir. Most definitely. Most definitely. So when we remove the burden, we're actually converting potential energy into kinetic energy. And in the language of science, potential energy is the energy of position. So if you're sitting at the light, you're in your car, the car is running, your car has potential energy. It has energy, but that energy is in a position. As soon as you press the gas, that potential energy converts to the energy of motion, which is kinetic energy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we all represent, I think the minister has said, potential gods. We all have potential, and we have to find our purpose. And again, I always go back to the man in the mission. You know, the minister said that when you find your purpose, he said, it's like love at first sight. And if I remember correctly, he says, your life does not begin until you find your purpose. Wow. That's when your potential gets converted into kinetic.
Wow. Brother Lukman?
Yes, is that Sister Sharon?
Yes, sir. If you could back up to the last slide. dealing with the kinetic energy.
Yes.
I remember going to the chiropractor, and that particular chiropractor, she dealt with kinesiology.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying when you have pain in your body, it's a block in your energy, the flow of energy. So she dealt with kinesiology.
Mm-hmm.
So that just, you brought that to my mind.
I think that's also a principle in when you deal with oh, what is it? I'm drawing a blank on it. The pins, acupuncture.
That's the same thing when you a lack of sleep. If you wake up and you cannot sleep, you have that problem. All you have to do is do some kinetic exercise, and that will help you, because you can do plank, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You stay for over a period, maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes, and next thing you know, you burn that negative energy, and you go back to your bed, and you find out you fall asleep quicker.
Most definitely, yes, sir. So now let's look at what's the weight on our back. I actually found this actually pretty interesting. Now, which weigh down thy back. Now, the word weigh, you know, there's two ways we can look at this. I mean, we can look at it many different ways, but one is a physical weight, and the word weigh also means to think. Okay, so in Arabic is alladhi ankada zaraka. And the word we're looking at, the keyword is ankada. And for Brother Clinton, there's the N, the Q, and the D. That's the root word, the 3 letters that form the root. And the root word itself is nakada. So your Arabic, each word starts with, or is derived from almost like an atom. So the root word is like the nucleus of the word. And then by adding in your vowels, you change the word around. So the word weigh also means to break. So we all know what an ARC break is, correct? It got real quiet.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm feeding off your energy. So
No, sir.
So the word weigh in Arabic also means to break. It means to be in disagreement.
I think, but I should just say no, sir. I don't know.
Yeah, I did. I said no, sir. ARC break.
Oh, I'm saying, okay, an ARC break is this. So you can have an ARC break. Let me use this word and then you'll understand it. Invalidation. So an ARC break is an invalidation. So have you ever had some real good news and you're really enthusiastic about something and you shared it with someone and it's all good? What's so big about that? They just invalidated everything that you just said. You know, it's like they took the air out your tires. So that would be an ARC break, because your affinity, your reality, and your communication has been broken. So now when you deal with affinity, you're dealing with something on the emotional level. You're dealing with reality, which is an agreement, and you're dealing with communication. Now, if we go back into our past, I'm quite sure that there has been someone in our past that has done something to us. It might have been a friend or a family member, and they did something to us that invalidated us. And we got to a point where we had no feelings for them. We didn't agree with nothing, and we didn't want to talk to them anymore. Can we agree with that?
Correct.
So that would be an ARC break. So that's the Dianetic language of also the word invalidation. It just means when someone does something to you and you get to the point where you don't want to look at them, you don't want to see them, don't talk to me, don't call me, don't write me, just leave me the hell alone. We've all been there, right? Before?
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay.
In fact, any break in any of those 3 points,
yes,
it is supposed to be an ARC break. It could be a break in communication. Okay, I don't want to talk to you no more.
So now the question is, why would you say I don't want to communicate? Because what affects one affects the other too. There had to be a reason why.
That's correct. Once you know that, then you're gonna see. You're gonna go into the other point. Was it a break in affinity? or was it a break in reality?
Right.
And as you just said, reality is a matter of agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what part of what I say or what we knew that you disagree with? So now once you can find those things, then you can fix the ARC.
You can fix the ARC now. Yes, sir. Brother Imani.
Yes, sir. I'm looking at the Ayat, and you have shared with us the Arabic definitions of certain words, but my attention is being drawn to the Arabic definition of the word back, which way down thy back.
Mm-hmm.
What is the Arabic definition for the word back?
We're about to get to that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No problem. No problem at all.
The psychic in your area, brother.
I know. So which way down thy back? So here we got invalidation. Okay. So now which way down thy? So the burden that weighs down the back is invalidation. And we got what's called enforced ARC, and we have what's called inhibited ARC. These are two different types of ARC. So it's like, you know, it might have been a point in time when you might have been at work and you were given instruction to do something that you didn't want to do because it might not have been ethical. You know, that would be enforced ARC. Someone is forcing you to do something that you don't want to do, or there's something that you want to do that might be correct or better, but someone says, no, I'm not going to let you do that. Do it my way. That's inhibited ARC. Does that make sense? So our ARC could either be someone else forcing their ideas on us that we don't agree with, or someone disallowing us to manifest what we have because they're inhibiting us. So now it brings us back to, you know, what Brother Imani asked. What is the Arabic word for back? And then how does that connect with Dianetics?
Back.
But now, so here's what L. Ron Hubbard says. He says, where the auditor has to use imaginary incidents to get any information of any kind out of the pre-clear, he is dealing with a pre-clear who has been invalidated very thoroughly by the people around him most of his life.
Whoa.
So that's Science of Survival, page 345. So some of the aberrations that we have right now, you know, why does he fear now that he's a grown man? Because he was taught to eat the wrong food when he was a baby. That's a principle of why are we fearful now? Why are we angry now? Why are we covertly hostile now? Because someone enforced something on us that we didn't want when we were children, or someone inhibited us from doing something when we were children. So now as an adult, whatever age we're at physically, there's a part of our psyche or a part of our mind that's still 7 years old or 8 years old. We're still stuck on the time track because of what someone else did to us to inhibit or enforce the ARC. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, as we're talking, how many people are having the experience of flowing back and forth on the time track and seeing certain things? Who's experiencing that right now?
At times.
Am I the only one?
I have.
Sister Joy, you got something?
That was Sister Angela.
No, I saw Sister Joy's hand go up and then Sister
Oh,
Deborah.
okay.
I was just saying yes.
Okay, all right. Sister Deborah?
Yes, sir. I was just bearing witness it. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So we're doing some time traveling right now as we're going through this.
Yes, sir.
So the weight on our back. So now, here we go. The word back is zaraka, which comes from the root word zahara. Zahara, that's the root word. So the weight is invalidation, but what does the word back mean? The word means to become visible, to be distinct, to be clear, to come into one's power.
What word?
So the word back, when you put that in connection with invalidation, so with the weight on the back and invalidation connected to coming to one's power, this could be interpreted as invalidating someone's ability or power to be or become.
Remember, the FOI is the backbone. Go ahead.
Eric, you took the word
Imani.
from my mouth.
Sorry, I was reading your mind.
Brother Imani?
Yes, sir. That brings to mind.
Bring it.
That in order for power to be inhibited, there must be an impediment to that flow of power.
Yes.
In other words, the symbol in electricity for that kind of impediment would be the ohm or the resistor.
We dealt with Ohm's law last week, brother. But go ahead. I'm not going to stop your flow, brother. Keep flowing. Go ahead, brother.
Praise be to Allah. What I'm getting at is someone is standing between you and your source of power.
Go ahead.
Well, the universal source of power, or I will say the ultimate source of power, is Almighty God Allah. So someone is standing between you, between us, and the ability for us to access the power that comes from God Almighty. Okay, so what we're dealing with is, I would say, in my understanding of Islam, is, you're dealing with a devil.
Well, look at the word impediment. What's the first three letters of the word impediment?
IMP, an imp.
And what's an imp?
An imp is a right.
It's a devilish entity.
Right, and it's the first three letters of the word impedance, which also means resistance.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, are you done, brother? I was gonna say keep flowing.
Well, that is as far as I feel comfortable going without further illumination from my brother instructor.
Praise be to Allah. But we actually touched on, we used Ohm's law to explain Dianetics this past Wednesday. And we also used Ohm's law to go into study guide number, Building the Will, study guide number 5. Because remember, and this is just a little quick synopsis, in Ohm's law, you have a battery, which represents your voltage and your current, correct? Brother Imani, you still with me?
Yes, sir, I'm still here, sir.
Okay, and your voltage is the pressure that pushes the current through the wire, and that current has to overcome the resistance in order to make the lights turn on. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You just used another word, brother, that relates to our presence. You use current. Current means up to date, right now. And it also means the flow of electricity.
Yes, it is.
And it also means fluid. So.
And water flows.
To see the same principle of Ohm's law, you have pressure, you have flow, and you have resistance. As a firefighter, we deal with those same principles, but we deal with it on a level of fluid dynamics. When we have to pump the hose in order to extinguish a house fire, you have to arrange your fire engine, and you have to pump at the correct pressure in order to get the right current to flow through the hose. And if the hose has any kinks, it actually reduces your pressure and doesn't allow you the ability to extinguish the fire. So that same concept is in fluid dynamics, but it's also in Ohm's law, which is in electrical physics.
And that kink is a ridge.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
The kink is a ridge. Praise be to Allah, group of scientists on the
And that devil is your reactive mind.
And that fire that's in the building is the engram and the reactive mind. So about a month ago, we showed a structure on fire, and we said this is a demo kit. And so for those that are new on the line, we say that Allah, the universe, is the demo kit of Allah. So when we explain concepts, there's nothing wrong with using the marbles and the glass beads and whatnot to go through the Dianetic tech, and if you're in the course room learning the information. But in this classroom, the demo kit we use are equations and planets and physics and universe and magnetism. Those are the demo kits that we use. Brother Imani, go ahead.
One thing that just came to mind listening to you use that visual analogy of the fire. Fire consumes. Once you apply these principles to put out the fire, what do we do with the debris that's left? What do we do with the ash?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because Brother William had just sent an email, and we were kind of building on that same concept. Now, the ash, if you are living in the wilderness, one thing you could do is that ash actually serves a purpose. But as far as from the perspective of a firefighter, that ash represents, that's just carbon, because fire reduces things down to its original state. Now, another significance of the ash is when we deal with arson investigation, if it's an arson fire, then there are certain accelerants that we can find in the ash. And based on the types of accelerants and based on the pattern of the ash, we can determine what accelerants were used to start the fire. And we also can determine the point of origin where the fire started. So the ash has significance based on how you examine it.
That's deep, brother Lukman, because if you reduce something down to its base structure, then you can work to rebuild it. But to be able to determine the composition of the ash to establish what caused the destruction of the previous form of that structure, that's a lot in there.
Mm-hmm. And we apply those techniques in arson investigation. And years ago, and again, Brother William and I were just talking about this. My concentration when I was in college years ago was actually forensics, because I wanted to go into a crime lab. And one of the things that we would use is called a gas spectrometer. And what that allows you to do is to take certain chemicals, you put it through this machine, and it allows you to determine what the chemical makeup is. Now, if you watch CSI, or, I'm dating myself a little bit, but if you watched Quincy, years ago, it was a way of taking certain chemicals and you can determine the chemical composition. The same thing applies with self. If we break ourselves down, and if we're honest with ourselves, then we will be able to determine the composition of our own thinking. Brother William, I see a hand up, brother.
Yes, sir. Just to encapsulate everything you just said, in medicine, that's called pathology. And in thinking about your chest analogy or your chest words at the beginning, post-mortem, a lot is ascertained after an entity has expired. Then the pathologist, or in that autopsy post-mortem, is able to go back and trace what brought this organism to its demise. Mm-hmm. I did have something else I wanted to say, but it's not on this same area, so I can either wait or forego altogether.
Nah, brother, go ahead and drop it before you lose. It might be a jewel, brother. Drop it before you lose it.
Inshallah. In thinking of what you instructed us about in terms of being in a situation and being forced to do something or to do it another person's way. I was thinking of something that was expressed in a study group, how I can go to Harvard Medical School or business school and come out with that degree on my wall, but showing that this world is not constructed to free us or help us to be clear. Even with a fancy diploma or degree, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Cornell, whoever, Stanford, we still enter the rat race. And it's a dog-eat-dog world. And we have to win at all costs. So all of the principles that I was learning in the classroom seem to be thrown out the window once I enter the practical application, because now it's, you know, cutthroat. Do whatever you can to generate victory, winning, money for this company, even if it's against the morals that I may hold. As a physician, I'm supposed to toe a certain line, you know. As we look at present circumstance, I'm supposed to say a certain thing if I'm a part of the medical industry, even though it's against what I know to be truthful and accurate. So that was what I wanted to express. Thank you.
The world we live in, brother, is an example of enforced and inhibited ARC. But when you look at someone like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who we know is the freest Black man that we know, he's in the world but not of it, so he doesn't have to abide by its rules. So he's not enforced and he's not inhibited. So have we seen how all three of these ayats actually, it's almost like a step-by-step process of the auditing? Can we see that?
Yes, sir.
I definitely see it. Yes, sir.
All right, yes, ma'am. Okay, good. So the individual that was burdened had been invalidated and the power nullified. So this goes back to, I didn't see who said it, but they asked the question about the we. Yeah, that was Sister, who was that? Sister, who was in the beginning?
Was that Pamela, Sister Pamela?
Yes.
Okay, so then the we took it upon themselves to remove the heavy loads, the burdens, the charges of sin, and the crimes committed against the aberrated individual. So in this instance, who would the we be?
It would be us.
Us.
That would be us, because we have the tech. So as a result, what was hidden in the heart, which also means mind, was made manifest, removed, and the thinking of the individual expanded. So we have the first three ayats line up perfectly with the process of Dianetic auditing. So now let's look at exaltation. So and exalted for thee thy mention. So now the word exalted, the root word is rafa. It means to lift. It means to raise. There goes that word raise again, which brings us to what in Dianetics?
Tone scale again.
Tone scale again. It means to elevate. It means to ring out, and it also means tone. So we got raising, and we have the word tone. So exalted for thee thy mention. Dimension means, the Arabic word is thakara, which in Arabic you've heard the word thicker, which means you recite the names of Allah. It means to remember. So exalted for thee thy mention, we're looking at raising someone's ability to remember. It means to quote or to learn. So and exalted for thee thy mention could be translated to mean improving the tone, improving someone's ability to remember, their ability to quote, or their ability to learn.
Can I say something right there?
Oh, go right ahead.
While you're saying it, because in the Holy Quran, when Allah had this discussion with the devil, he said he was going to make all of them deviate. And Allah had to reply, except my purified one. And when you take the word purified, it means free of guilt. And this is the role of Dianetics. When you are auditing somebody, you're trying to free that person from all the guilt trip that is having based on what happened to him or what has been done to him. But later on, when you get into Scientology part of it, it's no longer what has been done to you. It is rather what you have done to others that matters. So we are auditing a person at two different levels. One first, let's look inside. This is called, no. You see what I mean? That thing again? Objective. No, objective is when you're looking outward. Subjective auditing, now I'm having you to look within. Look within and tell me what you see. Tell me what has happened to you. And the person blocked it. It doesn't want to do it. And again, this is the reactive mind, blocking everything. So now, as you are auditing the person, it's like saying, I was. Now you as an auditor, you're going to say, oh, you see, oh, you are. Because you want the person to be in the moment, so that means he has to recall it as opposed to remember what is going on. See? And this is how we can help the person to be in tune with his own time, on the time track. And that's what we are, I think you are demonstrating to me in that right now.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Thank you. Brother Imani.
Yes, sir. I am looking at this Arabic definition for a dimension, and altogether you have there to remember, to quote, and to learn. Now, this is all presented in terms of present tense, is how I'm looking at it. And please correct me if I am not clear, but I am looking at this and I see to remember. And to quote is to speak on what you have learned. But then you look at the word learn, and in that word is the word earn, preceded by an upright. Okay, so what you are speaking on, what you are accessing from this remembrance is what you have earned by taking a position of uprightness.
Wow.
Okay, and then you say in the Dianetics, improving the tone. Well, the word tone is begins with an upright that is capped by a horizontal, indicating that there is balance in your uprightness, which allows you to access which right. And the one is the Almighty God Allah. So that mention, and then in fact, the word mention, the first three letters of that word is M-E-N. Men. And then that upright again, and then the ion, okay, the essence of the self. That very basic ion. So That's just the way I think, brother. I apologize for
No,
deviating.
no need to apologize, brother. That's your cognition. It makes sense. I'm good with it. It makes sense to me. I appreciate your flow, brother. Most definitely. Brother William.
All praise to Allah.
Yes, sir.
I think I may be able to add on to what brother just shared with us. As we were talking about absolute, and absolute being so many distance away from zero, which is next to one, and we know one is upright and it represents Allah. And we heard from our teachings that the men and the messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, I don't want to misquote it, but in essence, he was a zero until Allah came and stood beside him. So as brother was talking about the earn and the learn standing beside the one, that just came back to mind for me as we had talked about absolute, as absolute is actually away from zero, which stands next to the, or which is next to the one that is upright.
Most definitely. We got a room full of scientists in here today. So now let's look at difficulty and ease, and then we're gonna see if we can go ahead and wrap this up. So we know difficulty, it just means hardship or distress. And ease means to be easy, to thrive, or to prosper. So you have difficulty and ease. It means to live in luxury or to be wealthy. Now we know that in problem number 13, it says, sit yourself in heaven at once. So Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change their own condition. So, you know, we have to find this for ourselves now. Is that right?
Correct.
So now, after going through the process of Dianetics auditing and removing the burdens, the invalidations that weigh down our back, which is our potential power, our living becomes easier. Our abilities, our personal powers, our purpose becomes more evident, and we will begin to succeed, thrive, and prosper. So we've married the Dianetics to Surah 94. So now let's look at freedom from anxiety and see if we can drive the last point home. The word anxiety comes from the root word faraga. It means to be empty. So there's a quote, there's a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran.
Yeah, I read that.
And one of the key things he says out of the whole book that always stayed with me, he talks about something called silence. He said, you have some people that they talk all the time because the nakedness of their own soul, he says, the nakedness of their own soul will reveal certain things to them. To some people, silence is like holy water on a vampire. You know, and if you think it's easy, you know, some of us might be able to meditate, you know, try sitting in silence for 30 minutes. You know, tell people nowadays, try putting your cell phone down for an hour. Don't touch your cell phone for an hour. You know, for some of us, it's hard. And our anxiety is based on, for some of us, we have an emptiness inside. You know, for some of us, we go through emotional situations because we're void. Is that right? Or, and one thing L. Ron Hubbard says, one of the things that will click on an engram is when we're extremely tired. Anxiety also, or the word faraga, means also to have apprehension, to be in a state of fear. So to be free from anxiety means to be free from the feeling of being empty or void. Some of us feel as though we have no value. Some of us, you know, at one time, you know, years ago, before I came in contact with the minister, me personally, you know, I was considering suicide. because I was empty. I was void. I felt like I had a purpose in life, but I couldn't figure out what it was. So at one point in time, I wanted to give up, you know, and that's what our, you know, some of our people are going through right now. Some of the emotions that they feel, there's something in our nature that tells us that we're God. But this world does everything it can to inhibit or enforce, or more so inhibit our godness and enforce on us ungodliness. And this is producing anxiety. Look at the world around us. People are losing their doggone minds.
Yes.
So being free from anxiety is comparable to having an engramic bank that's exhausted, unloaded, or clean. Now, keep in mind, I said this before and I'll say this again. When you look at that word clean and you clear that word, one of the words that comes up as a synonym for the word clean is clear. The Most High Elijah Muhammad says in Our Savior Has Arrived, and I believe it's page 81, he says that the judgment will take place 1,380 years to 1,400 years after the death of the prophet. He said during that 20-year period, your mind will be made clean. And if you take 1,380 years and add it to the year that the prophet passed, which was 632, you get the year 2012. And if you keep in mind, 2011 and 2012 was the time period that the nation as a whole went on the study of Dianetics. So there's a mathematical relationship to 2012 to what the Most High Elijah Muhammad gave us, and Our Savior Has Arrived, right down to the mathematics, 2012. So we're currently in a process to have our mind be made clean. And he says during this time period, there's certain things in our mind that will be cleared away where we won't even be able to sin, because the brown germ will be removed from us. So if you want to read that in more detail, go to page 78 to page 81 of Our Savior Has Arrived. So now that we are free from anxiety, we can begin the process of serious work. If we are bogged down with engrams and we're bogged down with all this stuff, we haven't even come in contact with who we are as an individual. We have to get to a point of manifesting what's called our self-determinism. We have to say, like Allah, kum fayakum. We have to say be and it is. We got to say, in the words of L. Ron Hubbard, we got to produce our own universe. So when you look at the word in Arabic, the word work is insab, which means to devise a plan. A lot of times when I play people in chess, and when they lose, one of the first things I ask them is, well, what was when you first started, what was your plan? And in chess terminology, you have someone called a wood pusher. A wood pusher is someone who just moves the pieces around, but they don't have a plan. They don't have a strategic goal. They don't apply tactics. They just move their pieces back and forth. And in chess, in doing so, you waste time. So we want to always, when we get up in the morning, we should have a plan for everything we're going to do during the course of the day. The original man postulates 25,000 years in advance. So if you go to Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1, question number 1, who made Holy Quran or Bible how long ago? The original man writes his Holy Quran or Bible 25,000 years in advance. We should at least be able to write our future 24 hours in advance. But we need to postulate our history in advance. And as Minister Farrakhan teaches us, write our history and then walk into it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Wow.
So this part of the process,
Yes, sir.
praise be to Allah. So this part of the process is called making a postulate. It also implies setting things upright, raising, or lifting. So to be free from anxiety is to raise the tone. So the last part is to make thy Lord thy exclusive object. Now here's the last part and then we'll wrap it up. Everyone all right so far? I know we're getting close. We're getting close to 8 o'clock. I'm gonna try to wrap this up because I don't want to keep everyone past time too long. So, and make thy Lord thy exclusive object. So now in Arabic, the word Lord is Rab. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us in study guide number 9, our intimate relationship with Rabb al-Alameen. He gives us this ayat from the Holy Quran, which says, glorify the name of thy Lord, the Most High, who creates, then makes complete, and who measures and then guides. Now, can anyone see a Dianetic principle in that ayat? Anyone? If not, I'll keep. Huh?
No, I didn't hear your question.
Can anyone see a Dianetic principle or a Dianetic process in that ayat that's on the screen right now? Anyone? If not, I'll keep going. This is a cycle of action.
Oh, okay.
In Dianetics, we're taught start, change, stop. Is that correct? Brother Imani, go ahead.
Very quickly, as far as it may relate to Dianetics, I am not quite sure.
Okay.
However, glorify the name of thy Lord, the Most High, to me is saying what you do is you magnify that which has made you you. Okay? And who creates, then makes complete, and who measures. In other words, this who has made that which has made you you has made you complete. So why would there be, why would you access any potential for anxiety? Because in reality, there's no basis for anxiety to exist if you are glorifying the name of that which has made you you. And then he completes it by saying who measures. And to measure something means to establish its dimension. And once you have established the dimension of something, as the minister states, if you are in control of, paraphrasing, the diameter of an individual, well, then you can anticipate the circumference of its existence.
Yes, sir.
I have paraphrased that. So in actuality, if Allah has measured you, then it is He who controls the circumference of your existence.
Yeah.
It is He who has established for you all that encompasses you and all that permeates from within you. So if you glorify Almighty God, Allah, well, then what you are doing is making manifest or accessing that which makes manifest your existence. And by doing that, you have eliminated any potential for failure.
Yes, sir. Now let me pose this question to you. How would you expand the circumference of your activity based on that equation? What part can you do to increase the diameter, I mean, the circumference of your activity?
I would say you would make a continuous effort to follow the divine instructions that Almighty God Allah has given us. In other words, you make an effort to maximize your obedience to Almighty God Allah. Okay,
but that's true. But how does that translate to the equation or the quote that you just used? The quote is by Minister Farrakhan. He says, whoever controls the diameter of your thinking also controls, and I'm paraphrasing, controls the circumference of your activity. So how would you, as being made in the image and likeness of the Supreme Being, how would you expand the circumference of your activity based on that formula?
Well, brother, I have to be very honest with you. That's my dilemma.
Okay. So the answer is what you would have to do. I mean, you said it, that is the answer. But in order to enlarge your circumference, you have to expand the diameter of your thinking.
That's correct.
So as you expand your diameter, and the word diameter, dia means across or through, and meter means to measure. So when you can see across or see through something, the greater the depth of your vision, the larger the activity of your, the larger the circumference of your activity. So one of the reasons why our activity is small is because we think little of ourselves. But if we begin to see ourselves and our potential, then we will begin to do great things. And that is how we glorify the name of the Lord. Because when someone says, "Oh, brother, that was powerful," what's the first thing we should say? All praise is due to Allah.
Brother, that is so apparent. It is, I guess that's why we miss it.
So you see how we can use formulas to give us a deeper understanding of our Islam?
Thank you so much for that, sir.
Praise
I appreciate it, brother.
That is our mathematical theology. So let me break this down real quick and we'll wrap things up. Let's see. So now, this ayat describes the process of producing an idea, which is creation, and seeing the desired situation or object in its final stage. So it says to create and then make complete. So we have a start and we have a stop. Now understand this, that start, change, stop comes from a book called the Bhagavad Gita, where it talks about the creation being Brahma, preservation being Vishnu, and Shiva being the destroyer. And in the book, it states, Shiva states that there's not three separate gods. Shiva says, I am all three gods at different points in time. So we have the ability to create something. We have the ability to change something, and we have the ability to complete something. So this is what self-determinism is all about. In Dianetics, this is called a theta postulate. A theta postulate is an idea. It would be synonymous with a revelation. And just because we are not prophets does not mean that Allah will not reveal information to us. Everyone in this room Allah has communicated a thought, an idea, or a principle, or has spoken directly to you at one point in time in your life. Can everyone bear witness to that? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when you look at to measure and to guide, then we use mathematics, which is to measure in relationship with a step-by-step process, which is a guide. So in mathematics, we use numbers and we use what's called an algorithm. In the language of the Holy Quran, it's to measure and to guide. And that's how we manifest our thought energy into reality, or how we manifest our postulates, or how we say kum fayakun, be and it is. In the life continuum, L. Ron Hubbard says that the second that you start to control postulates, you're controlling yourself from a new control center.
He said it.
And then to make thy Lord thy exclusive object, the exclusive object is the focus of attention. And the word translates and corresponds to the word affinity. So the goal of life in the language of Dianetics is to be in ARC with Allah.
Wow.
Affinity, or a love for Allah, to be in agreement with Allah, and to communicate with Allah. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So in summary, the Holy Quran is a book that explains all things for the student that takes on the study of its wisdom. That's number one. The teachings of Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the fulfillment of all wisdom that is present today. We have the fulfillment in our lessons. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was and is right and exact in directing us to study Dianetics. We have the ability to marry the supreme wisdom with the supreme technology.
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions, thoughts, concerns?
One thing I get out of this, you brought me into two things. Number one, you say when Allah wants something to be, and it is. And he gave us also the same ability to say be, and it should be. And in this sense, it brings me to the other part where you were talking about the condition, and with difficulties come ease. And there's another ayat that says after difficulties comes ease. But now one must ask, how could there be ease in difficulties? Because it comes with it. So how come we cannot see it and we can only see the difficulty part of it? So, and also if we have to get to ease after difficulty, so what then must be done? And the only thing that I can see that comes to mind is the point of confront. Because if we can confront our difficulties, then we can see the ease that was with it. Because we did not let, there is no mystery God, we taught. So if there is no mystery God, whatever is we are facing, it's telling me I must be able to confront it because there is something greater behind it waiting for me. And then after confrontation, then you will see the ease that comes with it after it. So that's what I get from what you're saying.
If for those of us that saw the lecture, and Sister Bailey and Brother Imani, I see you, the lecture today by Brother Shahid, he had put up a quote that one of the hells that we have to deal with is information that we misunderstand. So then if you look at our lessons, question number 38 says, then why did God make devil? And the answer is to show forth and prove that he's all wise and righteous, that he can make a devil which is weak and wicked and give him power to rule the earth for 6,000 years and then destroy him in one day without falling a victim to the devil's civilization, to show forth and prove that Allah's God always has been, always will be. So now, why are there devils in our life? Because we have to show forth and prove that we're God. You know, it's easy for someone to have a black belt and say they can fight, but okay, get in the ring and let's see your skills. Because it might be that you bought your belt and you ain't got no skills.
Come on.
You know, it's easy to talk martial arts. It's easy to, you know, you can buy a black belt. And as we said before, in the East, when you see someone in the old school with the black belt, see over there, they didn't have, you don't pay for purple belts and yellow belts and green belts. They don't do that. In the martial arts schools, in the original foundations of the schools, everyone starts out with a white belt and you train so long that your white belt turns black.
Wow.
In commercialized society, you can buy a black belt and you can't fight nothing. So we have to have it. And then again, and I'm gonna go to the believers. Allah says in the Holy Quran, it says, he says, one of the reasons why he puts us through trials, will you be left alone on saying you believe and will not be tried? And then he says, nay, you know, he puts us through trials that Allah may know our heart. Minister Farrakhan says, if Allah is the all-knowing, why would Allah have to put us through the trial to know our heart? It would imply that he didn't know our heart prior to the trial, which would imply that he's not all-knowing. And the way Minister Farrakhan answers that, he says that the Allah knows, but the Allah in you and I don't know. It's easy to say I'm a Muslim. It's easy to say I'm FOI. It's easy to say I'm MGT and I'm a follower of the ministry. It's easy. But especially during this time of COVID, It's, you know, we had to go through this trials, and we realized our Islam may not have been as strong as we thought. I mean, everything is for real. So the trials are necessary so that we can study ourselves and go in the laboratory, and like the, you know, like a God in the triple darkness, we can bring ourselves out of the triple darkness of our own situation right now. I'm gonna go with Sister Beverly first. I see Brother Imani, and then I see Brother Rashid. Sister Beverly, you had a question?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, first of all, I want to thank Brother Wahid, who I affectionately call number one, and his wife, Sister Ayat, for inviting me on and being so pleasantly surprised to see my beautiful brother and sister, Brother Eric and Sister Barbara. I want to thank you, Brother Lukman. This is my first time, and I am not a student of Dianetics yet. I haven't been able to study it like I want to, but those that know me know that I am a student of the Supreme Wisdom book, and I love that book so very much, and the Holy Quran. I wanted to say thank you because in my innocence of not really knowing Dianetics, everything that you shared today enhanced my understanding of the Supreme Wisdom book and the Holy Quran. And I heard you use the terminology marriage, and I could not think of a better terminology than marriage for you to explain the bridge between these dynamic, ageless, eternal writings of wisdom, especially when you quoted the surah, the ayat, I'm sorry, about weighing down thy back. You know, I thought very deeply, and it was resonating very strongly with me, because we all know that for 6,000 years we would be at the subject of the opposite of ourselves, the brown germ. But we also know that 4,000 years ago, before the 6,000 years, we were taken away in preparation for this time by our granddaddy Shabazz, who took us down into the jungles to make us ready for this final chapter, which would be the final 6,000 years of what we had to go through. And in order to do that, I was taught that we had to be plunged into death and into darkness, even to the point that we became so blind, deaf, and dumb, we lost the total knowledge of ourselves. So when you said way down the back, I thought about the color spectrum, you know, ultraviolet lights, things like X-rays, things like that. And on that spectrum, we're only, our visible capability as human beings is only to see a certain gauges of light, green, red, blue, you know. And these lights correspond with our chakras. And so when you were talking about that ayat, it resonated so strongly with me, because the coming of Allah is bringing back to us those colors that we can see on the spectrum scale, which are tone colors, which open up our chakras and allow us to enjoy the full electronic spectrum of Allah's light and wisdom and understanding. And I got a whole lot more than that. I've got 6 pages worth of notes from today, but I'm not going to get into everything that I'm not going to bore you all with my 6 pages of notes, but I'm just saying that the Dianetics, which I'm not that familiar with, resonated so very strong with me in the Supreme Wisdom book, knowing that Allah said that he would give us this book so that we could see the light and walk therein. We can't see the light with dark chakras. Our chakras have to become alive, and it has to be, you know, quantum, in order for us to be able to first see the light and then comprehend the light, and then our choice to walk therein. Otherwise, as Brother Eric said, not be purified by the light. One other thing, I do know enough about Dianetics that if something is incorrect, we are supposed to correct it. And early in the, and I say this with a lot of humility, in the early portion of what we were saying, the third uncle in the problem book was referred to as taking the pills, the medicine in order, but it's actually the second uncle, because the third uncle has the ability to be free to expand his breath with unlimited amount of breath. Therefore, what he breathes and the words that he intakes, and then those words come out on his breath as tones of sounds that gives us the direct teachings of Master Father Muhammad. It has no value in selling price. It is absolutely infinite. So I just wanted to make those two remarks. I'm so very grateful to be here. I did not mean to take up much of your time, but thank you for allowing me to be able to express some of what I got today. Great job.
Thank you, Sister.
Thank you. Praise be to Allah.
Thank you very much for that. Most definitely. Got Brother Rashid and Brother Imani.
Alaikum. So when we were talking about anxiety, I was holding my thought, right? But then Brother Eric brought up the word confront. And the reason I was anxiety caught my attention because in the minister, when he was explaining in the gap, the refuge prayer, and he says, I seek refuge from thee from anxiety and grief. And he said that anxiety was referring to envy that we have. And that envy, and he uses an example of you see someone who has something that you want, or you think that you deserve it and they don't. And that's the envy. And then when you see that person, it brings grief up on you just seeing that person. So we are seeking refuge from that. And then let me go further. And then when he says, I seek refuge of thee from cowardliness. And cowardliness, the minister says, and this is where Brother Eric made me bring this point out, because I was pretty much just going to ride with and just go on, but I felt it's significant to bring it out once 2 points came out. When you say coward, confront, and the minister says the cowardliness is being coward to confronting the issues within yourself, the problems and the shortcomings of yourself, refusing to confront those. And he says you seeking refuge because you want to confront those issues or those shortcomings that you have within yourself. And so after doing that, and then looking at the whole surah, when it says that have we not expanded thy breast, like, and I looked at that as that have we not given you the Quran and removed from you that burden, the teachings that we have been taught by the white man, this whole new way of thinking, which weighed us down and prevented us from being able to deal with issues and confronting the issues that we have with ourselves. I see Dianetics being that avenue, allowing us to confront the engrams that exist within us. And then it says with some difficulty, surely difficulty that's saying that this process of doing this is not going to be an easy process. It's going to require us, it's letting us know that it's going to be difficult, but it's going to get easier the further you go along in the process. And so that's when it comes in and says, so when thou art free from the anxiety, now you have released yourself from that envy. It no longer has a life in you, because see, now you like the minister would say, that if you take away that envy, the way to take away that envy is to be thank Allah for what he's blessed your brother with, but be thankful of what you have. If you look at what you say, well, he got that, but I thank God I have this. I'm grateful for what I have. And when you focus on what you have and not focus on what he has as something that you want, and you are appreciative that Allah blessed him and blessed you. And the minister also explains that in that is that when you envy someone like that, Allah will increase that person to deal with, so that you have to deal with your envy of that person. And so after all of that, now you done got to the point where that envy is gone. He says, now go to work. You know, so I just wanted to bring that, because that kind of connected with me once brother added that comfort part to it. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Brother Imani.
All praise is due to Allah. I just want to thank you, Brother Lukman, for your patience with us and your sharing, your insights. And I also want to thank our brother who just spoke, I think Brother Rashid, because as he was reciting the surah, the word that came to my mind is, well, the thought that came to mind is, what is the Arabic definition for the word exalted? Because after the breast is expanded, Allah shares with us that he has exalted for us our mention. So I'm going to have to go back and look at that word exalted. However, I did want to share that when the information, or when information is shared and made clear, it brings a state of peace to the mind. So I just wanted to thank you, Brother Lukman, for making manifest to us the greeting, Assalamu alaikum. Because in your sharing the information, you have brought a level of peace to my mind. And I wanted to thank you for that. And then with the assembly that's, with the group that's assembled here, I just wanted to share, and I'm not sticking my chest out, but I was at a point in time, the top salesman of the Final Call in my group. And I'll just share that when you take out a couple of bundles of Final Call, there's a lot of weight to that truth. But when you get out there and you start sharing the word with the community, every time you distribute an issue of the Final Call, the burden of that bundle gets lighter. And when you come off the corner or wherever you are with that bundle, after you have exhausted your efforts, you come away and your pockets look like you got the mumps. And then you can go and make Allah your exclusive object, because you can take that blessing that Allah has given you and you can go pay your charity. You can go re-up on your Final Call, you know, and Allah has freed us from all anxiety in that regard.
And exalted for you your mention.
Absolutely, because you earn credit with the brothers and the community, because the more you out there, the more people look for you.
Correct.
And if you bring some bean pies or some ginger juice or whatever you got, where's that stuff, brother?
That's what they ask you.
So I just wanted to share that with the group, that when you're engaged in the mission, when you're engaged in the work, what Allah does is relieve you from the burden of any anxiety of you not performing your duty. Assalamu alaikum, family. Thank you so much, Brother Lukman. And also, I needed to mention, Brother Eric invited me. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Eric and Brother Barbara. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Sister Ani, our brother Wahid.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Brother Lukman, I mean, each week gets just more over the top than before. And I'm so elated inside. I've enjoyed it so much. And in order to keep with the flow of the class, I withheld mentioning something from earlier that you spoke about, because it was looking at the words of this surah in a, just putting a different spin on it. But in essence, though, it's all related. And I also wanted to quote something out of Study Guide 19, part of what we went over in study group this past Friday. And it starts off saying that in light of these words that was quoted above, it says, we can attribute nothing to coincidence, meaning mere chance. And so in that respect, I say that, everything is related, that all of the points that we're bringing up, even though they may express different veins, but those veins are yet all related. The part where it says, have we not expanded for thee thy breast and removed from thee thy burden? At different times, different meanings come to me, but the one that I'm going to speak on today is looking at this as from the aspect of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as if these words are being said to him, and that Allah, Master Farah Muhammad, and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad are talking to him. Have we not expanded for thee thy breast? Meaning, and as you mentioned earlier about expanded for thy breast, meaning have we not given thee a higher, deeper level of understanding, and removed from thee thy burden? Well, all these years that the Honorable Minister Farrakhan has been carrying the weight of the nation and saying, who are my helpers? And it has taken years and years of developing the believers to where now the ministers, that the level of the ministers has come up. You could say their tone has risen so greatly now. And we have so many scholars that are operating on a scholarly level, able to defend the minister, to defend our postulates in the nation, if you could say, and present that to the world and go up against any that would, say that the Nation of Islam are not true Muslims, or any of the arguments that are presented. And so, and in that phrase, and remove from thee thy burden, because now the minister has more helpers. He has developed the Shura Council, the executive council of laborers, that are now helping to carry the burden. And the burden being the work, and I'm not going to try to drag this out. And then exalted for thee thy mention. I saw that in this particular aspect, referring to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan as his exaltation, his coming closer and closer in line with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and his mind being lined up with the mind of the God, and drawing closer and closer to him, as it talks about, closer, in another surah, it talks about the closer than, was it something about the bow being closer than two bows or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, the difficulty factor in the early years, and now we're picking up speed and it's becoming easier. Although, of course, that the ease that is coming in has been tempered with much difficulty. So I think, you could probably understand where I'm going with that. I don't want to labor that on. So I'll just move into the study guide. It says everything in creation, and this is talking about from the will of God. It says, in the will of God, part 1, Minister Farrakhan writes, everything in creation is the manifestation of the will of God. When he says be, he summons the power of his own being, his creative mind and will to bring about that which he wills. And then further down, he speaks about the fact that the self-improvement study guide was delivered, the first lecture was delivered in the city of Phoenix. And he says that the phoenix is the name given to a legendary bird of extraordinary beauty. And that at the end of its time, it lives more than 500 years, and at the end of its time, the bird burns itself completely, then rises from its own ashes, brand new to live another cycle of centuries. And so I thought that was very interesting, because ashes, and we talked about fire and burning, and we talked about ashes this evening. And then later on, he says that the image of the phoenix burning itself and rising from its own ashes is a mere illustration of something even more extraordinary. Those who submit themselves to this process of heeding truth and right guidance are destined to be transformed. And there's more in it, but I won't go into it. Yeah. But it's all of what you presented to us today about going in, using the Dianetic process to rid of ourselves of these impediments. It all lines up with the study course that the minister put us on. And he says that the first stage in our spiritual resurrection occurs through the stimulation of our self-accusing spirit. That is when the inner voice speaks, guides, warns, reproves, exhorts, and accuses us of going contrary to what is right. And that development is designed by the help of Allah God to bring about a transformation and complete change in our lives. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, praises due to Allah.
I'm gonna make one statement from the standpoint of my background in firefighting, and I pray someone will replace the battery in their smoke detector before the night is out. I hear someone's smoke detector going off. Who is that?
Uh-oh. Can't hear it, but I guess you can.
Anyway. Anyone else? Anyone else before we wrap things up?
about this book, the title?
No, just anything. Brother Eric, I thought I saw your hand up. I don't know if you had a statement that you wanted to make before we close things out.
Oh, I was just talking about the expansion by itself, because in mathematics, when you're doing equation, there's such thing called an expansion. You get in parentheses, you got a plus b squared, and by expansion is equal to a plus b in parentheses, another open another parenthesis and close a plus b again, which will give you a2 plus 2ab plus b2. So we call that kind an expansion. So as I was listening to all of you talking, this came to my mind about the expansion, and I see where we are right now in time, because I think I was speaking to Brother Imani earlier when I was telling him we were marking time. Yes, there is motion, but the motion is not going anywhere. We are standing in the same spot until we get the marching order, march. Then we start moving. The reason we were marking time is because we did not have the mind who could help us to march. Because if we move before the order is given, chances are we might have all failed. So now I'm looking at what's going on right now in the nation all over. Thank God for modern technology. We have all kind of Zoom. And every Zoom meeting that you go to, you find something that you're learning, and there's something also that gives us more hope for not only the future, but for the present time that we are living. And I see nothing but qualified people doing what they are doing. So therefore, it's a matter of time. But since we are in the moment we call the how to call this thing that we're going through, the desolation, right? And in the book of Daniel 12, it tells us that time is marked by 1,290 days. And when you divide it by the 365, it gives you 3 years and 4 months. And in the same passage, it tells you, blessed is he who can endure 1,335 days. So that means, yes, the desolation will be 3 years and 4 months, but it will be expanded to 1,335 days. So now when you achieve that mark, so all of those who would survive that moment will be already in, not only in paradise, but really in heaven. And this is the goal of your work. This is the goal of Dianetics, of the minister, and everything that we're doing right now in the Nation of Islam.
So let me ask you this real quick, brother. 3 years and 4 months, how would you write that as a fraction?
Oh man, how many years that the messenger was under under the light of the master?
That was 3 1/4, right?
3 years and 4 months too.
Okay, so now if you take that division side out from between the 1 and the 4 and put a period after the 3, what number do you get?
141.
What is it? 2.25, 1.25, which is the
no. If you take 3 1/4, you remove that division sign from between the 1 and the 4, and put a period after the 3.
That's the constant that we have in the formula for circumference.
And what is that, Sister Sharon?
3.141.
Brother Imani, go ahead and finish us out, brother.
That's a slice of pie, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I disagree.
What I want to share very quickly is in the discussion that Brother Eric and I had, he was talking about marking time. And it didn't dawn on me then, but listening to him a second time, marking time, what is the first law of the universe? It's motion.
Mm-hmm.
And the second law is order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the marking time, okay, we're in motion, okay, and we don't have a direction until the order is given, okay? But now that order gives us the direction in which we should apply our motion. So the energy of the motion, once the order is given, has direction.
Okay, that's why you had to put order in it, because if you look at it, when everything was put in motion, there was no real order. So it was chaotic. So that means that's what you would call a word again. When something a randomity, we would call that in Dianetics. Everything is going randomly at any direction and hitting each other and things of that sort. And for that, Allah had to give it order. Now everything is moving toward the same direction. So with that, once you get that order, so now everything is moving toward it, and then it gives you the energy necessary to build whatever it is to build.
Well, I was just thinking that motion didn't necessarily have to be random. It could be merely vibration.
That's still random.
It could be merely vibration, but the vibration has in it, to me, just my own perception, is that vibration, that motion has in it an inherent order.
Okay.
And then once the direction is applied to the order or is inserted in the order, then that motion takes on a kind of dynamism and brings about an expansion.
For the sake of my brother, we will leave it right there.
Let me just say this to the believers. If you could, I see some new names up here. Please put your email address in the chat so I can add you to the email list to keep you informed of what's taking place tomorrow. And I see you, Sister Sharon, just give me 1 second. Tomorrow, Brother Batin and Sister Belinda have their group at 10 a.m. Supreme Technology Workshop. I will, if you don't have the Zoom info, I will send it out in an email tonight, but please give me your email so I can include that in my list so that everyone can get that information. Sister Sharon, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask if somewhere in the near future, if you could do the Adhan, the call to prayer, if you could break that down, I think that would be interesting for me. Just to, I think you used the word fundamental earlier, dealing with sound, and I think that would be good for the group.
Okay, so you're talking about the Adhan, and you want all the postures, the 4 postures of Salat as well, or?
No, just the words of the Adhan, and
okay.
Okay. Tying it to Dianetics and the vibration, the sound, and
I will do that, and I'll give you this jewel to think about before then. But I'll see if I can put this together between now and next week, God willing, and that'll be our subject for next Sunday.
Oh, praise God.
But if the interesting thing is, and Brother William is still here, he can add some to this if he chooses. When you deal with fetal development, the tissue that forms the roof of your mouth actually becomes part of your limbic system, specifically it becomes a part of what's called your pineal gland. And if you notice that in making salat, your mouth is a resonating chamber, and the sound made in doing the Adhan and making Salat actually causes a vibration off the roof of the mouth, and that vibration actually connects to the pineal gland. And in your pineal gland, you have these crystals. And when the crystals vibrate, they actually produce energy. It's called piezoelectric energy inside the pineal gland. That's just something to think about for next time.
That's why they say
Piezo, how do you
prayer
spell
is
it?
better than sleep.
P-E-Z-O.
It's P-I-E, I believe it's P-I-E-Z-O electric.
Yes, sir.
Brother Lukeman, you may have just taught me, because I knew that the roof of the mouth does connect with the pituitary, but you just enlightened me on the further connection that it goes, because the pineal physically actually sits behind the pituitary in more of a posterior aspect.
So that'll be a topic for a whole nother time.
Praise be to Allah.
So
usually Tuesday night, Brother Lukeman, we usually have also the Dianetics training for the auditors, but I don't have the coordinate with me, so I can forward them to you once I get them from Sister Allison.
If you forward to me, I will forward it to everyone else as well.
Okay.
And inshallah, either this Thursday or perhaps Saturday, we'll start the chess workshop.
Yeah.
Chess? All right.
And we will use the Holy Quran to understand chess strategy and chess tactics.
But you believe my chest is too small, or you want me to pump it up a little bit?
Sister Sharon, did you have something else, or are you good?
No, that was it. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
All right, family. Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and close out in prayer. Again, I see 170 and I see 177. May I ask who that is? If you can come off mute for a split second.
At the bottom.
Yeah, they are on mute though.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, family, let's go ahead and close out in prayer. As always, I dismiss myself in the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu Alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
And as always, I thank the family for giving your time. You know, in the motto is Savior's Day every day. But again, thank you for your words. Thank you for your support. And I'm just going to try to, you know, God willing, every week, just try to improve and make things a little bit better. So with that, let's go ahead and close out in prayer. Who would like to do the honors?
Okay.
You got it, Brother Eric?
Okay, I got your back.
All right, bro. Thank you.
Attention prayer in the manner we most comfortable. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent and the most merciful Master of the Day of Judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, Thee alone do we beseech for Thy help. O Allah, guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom Thou hast bestowed Thy favors, not of those upon whom Thy wrath has brought down, nor of those who go astray after they've heard Thy teachings. Ameen.
Ameen.
Ameen. Allahu Akbar.
Allahu
Akbar. Thank you, Brother Lukeman.
Thank you, family. Thank you.
So see you next
Brother
Thursday,
Eric.
inshallah.
Yes, sir. Just around the corner, brother.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Oh, Tuesday morning, 10 a.m., Supreme Technology Workshop. I'll send you the info.
Oh, yeah. Belinda.
Good.
Okay. Access my email, Brother Lukeman. I'll put it in the chat, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna wait until everyone. Yeah, I can wait that way. It'll get in there so I can add it. Otherwise,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll wait for you.
Thank you so much, dear beloved.
Oh, thank you.
Prayer line now.
Okay, I got you, Brother Imani.
Love you, family.
I never received anything. You said you were going to send a few things out. I never received. I don't know. You don't like me. I see that. I'm going to complain.
Well, what did I say I was going to send? Because I've been sending stuff out. How have you not gotten it?
I don't know. I say I'm always neglected.
Oh, brother.
Brother Eric, don't feel bad. Me too.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, man. Oh, wow.
He has some particular people he loves more than others. I know
that. No, fam.
How we know?
I love all of y'all equally.
Speak to Allah.
Well,
Brother Eric, do I have your email?
Yeah, I sent it to you the other day, twice in fact. The last time I put my name in next to it.
Now, Sister Ania, what have you asked for, you and Brother Wahid, that I haven't sent?
Every recording, I think I've received maybe two recordings.
Oh, you're lucky.
Oh man, but smile in your face.
Yes, sir, Brother Lukman. At least there's a positive in it. When Brother Eric used the term rejected, at least he didn't preface it with the word despised.
Wow.
Good.
Whatever you ask for, just send it to me to email. I will do my best to make sure you get everything that you request.
I think the last two sessions we had, one was last Thursday and the other one before that.
So is it safe to assume to just to send it out, to send these recordings out after every meeting, just to send it to everybody?
Yes, sir, most definitely.
Yes, sir. Please include me on that list, sir.
Okay.
So that should tell you something how very valuable you are.
By Allah's grace, brother, I'm just trying to make the words of the minister real. Marry the supreme wisdom with the supreme technology. Thank you, Brother Eric.
The more we can understand what we have, the better it's going to be for us. In other words.
Say again?
I said, the more we understand who we are, the better it's going to be. Because all those teaching that are being given to us is not for just a joke. There is value to that. So now we have to assume that responsibility to acquire the knowledge, because that's one of the things that Supreme Wisdom say. Each student must study to qualify himself for position awaiting him. So now, what is the position? Not to be a minister, but captain or lieutenant or secretary. Yeah, there are greater work that is to be done. So now, if we are talking about nation, who's going to assume all those position? So, and how can I give you a position when you have no knowledge? And page 56, I believe, from Message to the Black Man, if not, it could be 36. The messengers tell us how much he wants us to learn. So at that point, then he said, that's the greatest thing you could do for yourself, to learn something new. And it's not just talking about Holy Quran and Bible, any kind of knowledge. In Supreme Wisdom, the problem book talk about the Library of Cairo, and it tells you how many books there are, and also if a student learns this, if a student learned that. So now what is it saying? So now we have to go and get those instruction, because if we have to become, if we have a nation, how can we build bridge when we have no engineer? How can we build roads if we have no knowledge of how to do it? So now we're going to rely on our own enemy to come and do it for us. And he's going to be overcharging us, and he may even be put it in a way that can kill us all.
You mentioned the word bridge, Brother Eric, and Sister Beverly mentioned bridge earlier. And I thought about when you're at the org, they talk about going up the bridge.
Right. In this sense, going up the bridge, it's a matter of knowledge also, how you acquire knowledge, because there are two ways you go up the bridge. One, you could go do it by acquiring the knowledge on how to do it. And two is getting audited by a professional auditor. All right, and then from that point, you get to the point of coming clear. And after the clear, we get clear, now you're going up to the OT level, which means operating tether. And the highest you can go right now is a OT 12. And there is much higher, but they don't have auditors that can that get to that level where they can audit higher than the OT 12. You can go, but
I know, but okay. Don't forget the feedback.
I won't forget. Oh, you wanted feedback too, brother? I see. That's what she's nagging me with.
I'm saying put your email address.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, make sure, brother, because I try to send things out. But I get so many requests. Sometimes I get caught up in trying to do so many different things, and I got to work on that. So I'll take that responsibility.
Every time you come to anything that's the Eric, assume you're sending it to me.
If I can access the post, past, present pop culture, you used the word try a couple of times, and I would access what Yoda told Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back.
There's do and do not.
There is no try. There is only do or do not. And when Yoda lifted,
don't jump my brother like that.
No, I'm just saying it's a process.
Yes, sir.
He said he was going to make the effort to get it out, and we take him at his word. It is a process because the do is the effort in getting it done. And it's a process. The do is all inclusive of the efforts that we apply to the task at hand. And see, Luke made an effort, okay, but he subverted his effort by stopping or breaking off the process. And Yoda went ahead on and lifted the X-Wing out of the bog and put it on the bank. And Luke said, I don't believe it. And Yoda told him, that's why you fail.
Okay,
because you have no belief.
You see in that word Yoda, you see the first letter in it?
Why?
The yod.
That's the tree of life.
Yod, he, va, he. Okay, the yod is the I, which we recite in English. And the I meaning the God that you are, or that he is. Okay, now, Yod, He, Va, He, give you the word Jehovah. And from the word Jehovah, you come to get to the word Yeshua. You see, all these are they are all interrelated.
Yes, sir.
Connected to the same thing, but except that they have different expressions. And those expressions help us now to see who we are. In rapport to those two great ones that we have from the Jehovah, which is we call it Jehovah nowadays. And now we know the right name is Allah. All are, whether it's Jehovah, whether it's Yah, Allah, all end with a Ah. Ah is an expression that says, astonishment. I did not know it was like that. Wow. Anyway.
And this as a whole is a manifestation of when you engage in the sharing of truth, there is an expansion, an inevitable expansion of knowledge.
That's right. Is that the after party, by the way?
In relation to what Brother Imani was saying, reminded me of one of the things I did receive, Brother Lukman, was that what you sent from the minister on us manifesting what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, that is so powerful. Thank you so much for that.
Really, I'm the forgotten.
See, you know what, brother? I must not have your email because I sent that to everybody.
All right, you know what? I'm not gonna put it in the chat. I'm gonna give it directly to you, so that you gave me no more talk.
I sent that out to everybody.
May I say something, please?
Yes, ma'am, Sister Beverly.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience as well. Listening to what Brother Imani Uhuru just stated, reminded me of a letter that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan sent out to the believers in 1989. I do believe it was the month of April. I'm pretty sure it was in the springtime, when he announced to us that we would be able to get our Supreme Wisdom lessons in a book, a little thin book. It was the first time ever in the history, because prior to 75, you got one lesson at a time. And when you learned one lesson, then they would give you the next lesson and you would learn the next lesson. But my point that I wanted to bring up, I'm really feeling very deeply what Brother Imani is saying, is that in that letter, when the minister announced that he was giving us all the lessons at one time in our Supreme Lessons book, he said that there was a mistake in the book and that it would be fixed over a period of time. Mm-hmm. And that was that English lesson C1 was to be after Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2 and before the problem book. And when I was studying and researching that one time with my instructors, the objective was to be able to see the power and the ability to be God by Master Father Muhammad. And that all of the other lessons would just lay the base so that we could come to see that one. Mm-hmm. And then when we come to the knowledge of seeing that one, the problem book would be, according to my instructors, the problem book would be the essence of problem number 13, mm-hmm. which would give you numbers and letters in the form of physics and chemistry, the structure, chemistry being the structure and physics being the action, I guess. You know, what it is, chemistry, this is what it does, physics. And so sometimes we forget to do the connectivity that is absolutely necessary for us in order to see the one. And before we go into solving these problems in a mathematical way. So when Brother Imani said what he said, and by the way, my favorite character is Yoda. I think Yoda is just absolutely awesome. He speaks so much wisdom, you know. There is no, how did you say it, Brother Imani? You either do or you don't. Yes, there's no such thing as right and wrong. In our world, right and wrong does not exist. Mm. It does not exist. There's no such thing as you're wrong, I'm right, or I'm wrong, or you're right. Mm-hmm. All of it is an experience. Mm-hmm. And when we do things and they're not accurate, that does not mean that they are wrong. That means that we must continue with that particular formula until we solve it. Mm-hmm. And then Allah will allow us to open our chakras, as I mentioned earlier, expand our breasts in order to move up to another electrical current or vibration that is readily available in the universe for those that seek it and are able to elevate step by step. So when you mention Yoda, I just think he is a master, even though he's just on the big screen. But it enlightens us when we look at the fact that what is in us is so powerful. What is in us is so yet to be discovered. I will ask your patience on one other thing. And Brother Eric and Sister Barbara, you know, Brother Dr. Talib, Sister Samia's oldest boy, he did a his PhD at Morehouse, and his study was can blind rats see by use of the pineal gland. And he was able to use and prove in his thesis that even though the physical eye may not be able to see, there is yet another sight that is picked up from areas around us that vibrate through our thoughts and through our actions. I think they call it, Brother Lukman, the Akashic records that we can download sometimes even without us knowing about it. So when we begin to understand that the light that we are seeking, the explanations and the definitions that we are seeking, Allah has lit us up now with the divine wisdom that all of the masters have written of, and he's given it to us. However, we talked about the Al-Kitab earlier, I think it was you, Brother Lukman. The Al-Kitab is the book that is written every 25,000 years that foretells our history. However, after the year 15,000, the year 16,000, the light was so bright that the scientists couldn't see. They had to put their pens down. Well, who is going to write the completion of the 9,000-year cycle of this present cycle of time but me and you? And as I said, I'm learning so much about dynamics, and I see where I see the English lesson C1 for me tonight is I can see the dynamics is the key to unlock and allow us to accelerate and resonate all of this wisdom that Allah has given us, which is based in the mathematics of numbers and the mathematics of language. Please forgive me, I didn't mean to take up so much time.
Oh, it's fine, Sister Beverly. Two quick points. One is the minister has said that, and I'm paraphrasing, he talked about the Dianetics allowing us to crack open, I believe he said the supreme wisdom, and he compared the supreme wisdom to a treasure chest that contained a lot of treasure, but we did not have the ability to get inside and get all the riches that are in there. And I personally had made that comparison to, you have a cap full of some medicine that has a child-proof cap on it. And we can say that we have the medicine, but if we don't have the ability to take the cap off, then we can't take the medication. The supreme wisdom represents the kindergarten, as it says in page 312 of Closing the Gap, the kindergarten of Master Fard Muhammad's wisdom. And we haven't even cracked open the problem book to get into the kindergarten yet. So I compare the Dianetics and the supreme wisdom like this. When an individual has a heart attack or they're about to have a heart attack, it's because you have blood that's got to flow through, a life force that flows through to give energy to the heart. And that heart attack is a result of, you have something like they call it in cardiology, they call it plaque, but it's a buildup of plaque that closes the diameter of the artery, and less blood will flow through. So in order to save that problem, save that person, is you have to find a way to bypass that block. And they call it a double bypass or a triple bypass. You have to bypass that, or you do what's called, maybe some of you may have heard this, it's called balloon angioplasty, where you increase the diameter, you expand the artery to allow more blood to flow through. So the Islam, that's our life force. Our lifestyle is what's blocking the flow, and the Dianetics is what we use to expand it, to allow the life to start to get back through again, to get our life back where it needs to be, so that we can start eating properly and not allowing the things that we shouldn't do block our flow. The Dianetics doesn't change our religion, but the Dianetics makes us, the minister said that the supreme wisdom will make us a God, but Dianetics will help us get there quicker. So we need both, because we've had the supreme wisdom for all these years. And I can tell you, me personally, I've only been in the nation 30 years. And I can't think of a time where I've ever had a conversation with any of the believers about the problem book. We just don't discuss it.
Not even the ministers don't do that either.
Yeah, no one touches the problem book. So why not? You know, Sister Ania. One other thing. You were talking about Star Wars. Last week, I had told the believers I was looking for an article. Mother Tanetta Muhammad said these words. She says that there are angels in America, and some of these angels are actually in Hollywood, and they put certain levels of wisdom in the movies. And I'll add the new names tonight. Wow. But I had found that article. I'll resend that article. But Mother Tanetta Muhammad taught on the fact that the angels that are in America, their identities are kept secret, and some of them are in Hollywood, and they put certain higher levels of wisdom in the movies.
I see that.
So those of us that are aware, we might see certain movies, and we might say, oh, wow, that's deep. And someone else might sit next to us and they say, what are you talking about? You know, and it goes back to what Allah says in the Holy Quran. Allah disdains not to set forth any parable, a gnat or anything above that. And those in whose hearts is a belief, but those in whose hearts is perversity, they say, what is it that Allah means by this? And those in whose hearts is belief, they say, surely this is the truth from Allah. When we see certain key elements in the movies, we look and we say, now where'd they get that from? We can say the same thing about Dianetics. In the book called The History of Man, the first sentence, he talks about a history of man going back 76 trillion years. Where did L. Ron Hubbard get that from?
He said it, in this sense, he said it in one of his lectures. He said he has been studying all the religion for years. He traveled many places just to study religion. And finally say, I have found the door, and I'm leaving it for you. And when did he find that door? After they confiscated the teaching of the Muslim Elijah Muhammad, right? And all of that, to me, after learning all of that, I think Allah allowed that to happen for a reason, because if it wasn't for this man, L. Ron Hubbard, maybe most of us in the nation would not have understand what we got. Because if you look at all the top ministers in the nation of Islam are those who have studied at the Church of Scientology. Because first of all, we got a technology that we have acquired, which is clearing words. And that, although the messenger told us to do that, but we still did not understand. In the Supreme Wisdom itself, Instruction to the Laborers number 3, it said there is more to be understood in the words. And we still didn't get that. But now when you go over there, they put emphasis on clearing words, and not just to look up the word, to clear the word to its full conceptual understanding. Why is that word conceptual? In meaning, there is a context to what you're reading, but in the context itself, there is a concept that has to be developed from there. To understand that, the car industry, that's my favorite example. You go every year in the showroom to look all the new models, right? Oh, that one is beautiful, that one is beautiful, you're going crazy. But you always find in those companies, they have a car they call a concept car. And the concept car doesn't have to be looking nice. It just gives you a broad idea what they are working on. Okay, maybe this year, we're working on electric cars. And they give you a brief story how the electric car come about, what you're gonna see, what they want to do with it. And by the time it come, now you're gonna find the car as it can appeal to you where you can use it all over. So this is the same way. When somebody white is something for you, the person is not just whiting because he wants to give you a story. He wants to give you a window of his mind of what he has discovered. So now if you understand, so now you go and try to duplicate what you read. And from your duplication, you may also find your own conclusion. See, but however, because you find your own conclusion, it doesn't mean that his is not good. Remember, that was the one you follow to bring you to that level that you are today. And that's why the messengers of God are always there to lead us, to guide us into a greater truth. Because they have found the door, they could have kept it for themselves. They said, no, I'm going to show you how you can also develop yourself to be where I am. Isn't that what Jesus told his disciples? Okay, then this is what the messenger also is doing with us. That's what the minister is doing with us. So now, Scientology, the minister sent us there. He said, I have found something that I feel, I believe that can be beneficial to you. Why? And he said, he will not send us somewhere that he himself has not been. And only a few would tell you the minister went to a high degree in that teaching. He was audited many to a high level too. Okay, but at that point, when he see what he does, so now he feel comfortable to send you there. He said he's not afraid to send anybody to study anything. If you leave the nation, that's on you. But whatever he send you to, that means we need, the messenger said, we need everything in a nation. So if we need everything, that means we should be a bookworm and study everything that we can get, because when the call is given, you are prepared to help whoever they're going to put in place. Old men for counseling, young men for war. So you can only guide them and let them direct the whole thing.
Yes, sir. Sister Ania.
When Sister Beverly talked about being blind and being able to see through, a different, higher type of sight, I could relate to that. Some years back, I was visiting my home in England, spending time with my family. And while I was there, I lost my sense of smell.
Wow.
Totally. And by the grace of Allah, it's partially has been restored, not fully. But while I was there, I wanted to get a gift for my sister-in-law. And while out shopping, I came across some sisters that had a little booth in a market selling essential oil, incense, and different things like that. And when I asked them, that I was told them I was looking for a gift, they suggested to me they had like a gift of a selection. They did a collection of like 6 different essential oils, perfume oils. And so she put the thing before me for me to smell them and select 6 different ones. And I told her that I, had lost my sense of smell. And then I asked them, I said, well, why don't you and the other sister that was there, why don't you select the scents? So they asked me to describe my sister-in-law. And, I gave them the description and I asked them to describe the scents to me. And through that process, we selected 6 different ones. And when I put the scent to my nose, I couldn't smell them, but there was some sense that it was just like, repulsed me. And I said, and even though they suggested some of them, I would say, no, not this one. Or other ones, even though I couldn't smell it, something in there attracted me. And so through that process, we selected 6 different ones. And when I gave my sister-in-law the gift, she loved every single one of those scents, every single one. And even my picky brother, it was very hard to please. Even he liked every one of those scents, every single one. It was a very amazing experience. So to me, that just verified what Sister Beverly was saying, that we have that ability to, interact from those higher senses. So, yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. Well, family, I have a lot of emails to send out, so I can try to keep everyone happy. So Brother Eric won't talk about me anymore.
In good.
So I will resend out that article of Mother Tanetta, and I will resend out the video that people or the believers were talking about by the minister that's titled "How to Manifest Anything." I'll resend that out tonight. Those that didn't receive that before. So I will have your emails tonight, and I will send it tonight before I call it a night. So
I don't have to put ours in the chat. You have ours, right?
Oh no, ma'am. You should have already received that information, correct?
You already sent it?
Yes, I sent the email out a couple of days ago. I sent out the article from the Final Call newspaper, and I sent out the actual video, a hyperlink. You just open the email and just hit the hyperlink, and it'll bring you right to YouTube where the video is. And for those that are new, if you go to Supreme Wisdom Meet Supreme Technology on Facebook, that's our Facebook page. I have other videos posted there as well by Mother Tanetta Muhammad, and I'll have that video by the minister posted on that Facebook page also.
You can write that down.
Supreme
Wisdom meets.
Yep, Supreme Wisdom Meets Supreme Technology Facebook page.
Okay.
So, and on that Facebook page, I will include. I have about 300 articles that I've written, like the same thing we did tonight with the 94th Surah. You know, by Allah's grace, I've been doing that with the Holy Quran for the past 4 years, of using the ayats from the Holy Quran and marrying that with the text from Dianetics. So as time goes on, I'll reintroduce all those articles onto that Facebook page, so you can use your Holy Quran to gain a better understanding of Dianetics.
At one point, I used to do that for the last 3 years. I've been going with the Dianetics technology with the auditors, and I was comparing the technology to the Supreme Wisdom, and things stopped. Thank God we're starting it again. Sister Beverly, it's been beautiful to hear from you.
She might have left.
She's there.
Oh, I'm here.
Sister
Beverly, it's so good to see you.
Allahu Akbar, it's so good to be with such a wonderful, wonderful group. I didn't even think I could have stayed on this long because I had some other things pressing. But I because the gravity of the conversation is so deep, and it reminds me so very much of my study and my research, and a breath of fresh air to be able to experience as my students. I tutor. My students said to me one day, they said, you know, Sister Beverly, the difference between our generation and your generation, and these are high school students. And I said, no, what is it? You all think Islam is a religion, but we know it is a science.
There we go.
And so tonight, it was so beautiful to be able to experience the science of Islam, because I often think that we skip the meat of what we are taught because we want to just, you know, feed on the fat, so to speak, you know, and so we don't get the nutrition of it. Brother Lukman, I am extremely impressed with you and the way you handled the meeting. I feel very welcome. I feel as if I've been a part, even though I found, you know, my relatives here, like Brother Eric and Sister Barbara and Brother Wahid, #1, and Sister Anaya, I still say Anaya, I'm sorry.
That's
But it is a distinct pleasure to be in the midst of those who are scientifically looking at what we are learning and what we are taught. I am very impressed, but more than that, I feel like I'm at home. You know, I had the pleasure of being a student to a very wise person for many years. And she taught me a lot of stuff. And by Allah's grace, I guess I should call her name, and that is my cousin, Mother Tanetta Muhammad. And what she taught me all those years, I have found here in this group.
Wow, that's awesome.
Wow.
Found it at a high level of connectivity. And so, you know, this has just been like, after you cross the Sahara Desert, you know you're walking on top of castles that we covered up with the sand so the devil wouldn't find it. But it's a long way between Timbuktu and Cairo. And I feel I took that journey tonight. You know, I really do. So each one of you have made me feel very much at home. Thank you so much. I can't wait for Brother Tim, my husband, to hear where I've been and what I've learned with you.
Please let him know.
Yes.
We want to see him too.
Yes.
Can I say something real quick, please?
For that team, it was
Sister Beverly just popped something in my head when she said what the students shared with her and the science. Do you know that there are two things, and I'm going to be very brief. Our dear beloved brother, Minister Farrakhan, shared with us that when you start feeding on something, okay, it precipitates the and I'm paraphrasing, the digestive process. And when you begin to chew on meat, he said, it is sprayed with saliva. Okay, and it begins the digestive process. Okay, and that spraying of saliva begins to break down, okay, the consistency of the meat into elements that we use, okay, for our sustenance. Okay, so when she said that, it just, you know, it sparked that thought in my mind. And the second thing I'll share, and then I'm done. The minister treats all, and this is in regards to Dianetics, the minister treats all of us as if we are auditors because he unburdens himself with his life experiences.
Very deep.
Okay, so he treats us as if we are all auditors. Okay, and he uses that process to unburden himself of any impediments in regards to his own personal state of being. In other words, his hands are clear of the blood of, how you say, not having taught us or shared with us what we need in order to better our own condition. Assalamu alaikum.
May I add one more little note? When we were talking about Star Wars, Brother Lukman, I chuckled because one of the great architects that you don't really hear a lot about, who helped build the Great Pyramid with the missing capstone, his title was the letter D, the Jedi. That was his title. Did you find it in the movie?
The Dead Jedi, but yeah, which is similar to the Jedi, most definitely.
Jedi,
I never saw that. That's a good one. I like that.
And there are many things that are hidden in the language. And that's where Allah hides his wisdom, is when we begin to dissect the language code. Remember, we took everything from them when we marched them across the hot deserts into the hillsides and caves of Europe. We took everything away from them but the language. But even at that, they were reduced to grunts and howls. But when the language came back up again, it still had the syntax, I guess you would say, of our forefathers, because that language that they put in them, it was reduced, but it was never destroyed. So when it came to Master Father Muhammad giving us the teachings, he used the English language to teach us his wisdom, because that's the language we knew. But that's also the language that our forefathers tucked inside of them, so that when the time became right, the harmonics, the tones would lend color spectrum to expressions, that we would be able to see one, even though it was not our natural language. So I get a little carried away, please. I'm sorry.
You just answered a question that I was about to ask when it comes to that, accept the language. Because if you look at those in the East that we cast out, they did not go out with our language. They were given a separate language, a distinct language. They came from Arabic or Aramaic to something called Hebrew, right? Because the language was changed, and that's how they get transferred to another area. But they lost that language in the passage because they went wild, not wild, they went savage, right? So now, the language that we're speaking now, is it talking about us? Because we are being taken to another area now, which we call Nation of Islam, or the new civilization. So now they take everything away from us except the language. So we still have to yet to learn Arabic, as you just said, but English is still left with us, because that's the language we were raised and understand. So at that point, we are still with that language. However, we have to go now into our own mode where we can learn our language again, where we can speak the language well.
This is true, but our fathers loved us so much, Brother Eric, that in the language that we call English, which is European based, are the secrets of the scale tone, are the harmonics, so that no matter what word you put to it, even the sound of it, like the Canton Spirituals made that sound, that song, and Brother Jamil, Minister Jamil redid it. It's the name Jesus, and you see how people react. Well, it's not so much the concept that they gave us of Jesus, but that sound does something to us. It's a harmonic that even though we say Jesus now, those of us who learn, we know that Jesus is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But you ever had it in your brain where you can almost hear a tune that you want to remember, of some song that you like, and you say, now how does that song go again? But the melody is there, and you're trying to think of the name of it, you're trying to think the words of it, you're trying to think of the artist that sang it, and then eventually down the line, it'll pop in your mind. That melody of our Father's language. Yes, the melody of our Father's language is coded in English, and it is up to us to take it and crack the code with it. Master Father Muhammad taught us in the language of English, of our fathers. I'm sorry.
I said, don't do that to me. You just have brought me into an area that is so profound. And that area is really coded in problem number 13.
Absolutely.
That problem number 13, if you look at it, that's the only problem that is repeated twice. And if you take 13, 1 plus 3 equal what? 4, and 4 is foundation. And problem 13 comes right after your instructions.
Absolutely.
Right? Instruction is something that must be obeyed. That's,
but if you look at it,
that's part of your general order, and also that part of your restrictive laws. So now when you get into the 13, there is a promise. And if it's repeated twice, 13 plus 13 give you 26. Go check problem number 26. If they give you a number you can hardly pronounce, right? It got a bunch of zeros after it. Why is that? And that's the number of atom in the wilderness of North America. So that means
it's 78 quinvigintillion.
Yeah, something like that. So now, which means that is unlimited progress that we're going to make. Once we understand problem number 13, and the first 13 was the foundation that Master Farad Muhammad himself built with his messenger. And the second one, you might say, the one that the minister has built, right? So now, the first one had to fall because this was only a demonstration to us what we could achieve when we decide to move in line, right? So now we build, we had the transportation, we had the businesses, we had all kind of things that we were proud of, a little empire of 80 million for the time. So now the second dispensation with Minister Farrakhan, which is another foundation, he built on the foundation of his father. So now we have we are standing on a double foundation. And when you take those double foundation, you put them together, it gives you an 8-pointed star. But Lukman, you a scientist, tell me what is that 8-pointed star. And but Imani, I know you can too. 8-pointed star, a double foundation, that means how strong is your foundation? So now you will know that you stand on a strong foundation. In all, it says, get knowledge, we have that. We are with supreme wisdom, but now all we need is understanding. It says, in all thy getting, get understanding. So now once understanding comes, this is where you're gonna see the march toward unlimited progress.
Absolutely. You bring to mind and you strengthen a point, the point that I was trying to make. And I thank Allah for you putting this in my mind using problem number 13. Problem number 13 does say that we can speak, that the average one of us can speak 400 words well, you know, and we've been here in this country in slavery for 400 years. We are speaking the language that was given to us well. However, we are limited to the expression of it, to the experience about 400 years. And now we must be able to speed up the language, as it says in the original rules of instructions, paragraph number 2. There is an equation in the third paragraph. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, right. In the third paragraph that absolutely links to Tesla's physics formula of 3, 6, and 9 that tells us how to use the language in order to resurrect the dead. So yes, we're speaking the tones and the scales and the sounds of what was left in the language by our forefathers when they put them up in Europe, knowing that they would be released after 1,000 years to come and wreak havoc on the earth, because that is the deal that Iblis and Allah made with each other. So we do speak it in the parameter of 400 years experience, but we must elevate the language and add to each letter. You know, a letter is also defined as the character of a person. We say a lettered man or a lettered woman. So we have to add more characteristic to the language in order to bring full expression. And then of course the numbers, as I said in original rules of instruction, paragraph number 3, one example is that you have the Tesla 369 frequency, hertz, the frequency of the electrons going around atoms 3, 6, and 9. That's a whole nother thing. I don't want to get into that, but I resonated off of what you said, and I thank Allah for you saying it. And I thank Allah for your wisdom and your study, Brother Eric. May Allah continue to bless you.
Bless us.
Us.
I love you, Sister Beverly.
I love you too, Sister Barbara. I always have.
Me too.
And I love your husband and his smoothies.
Oh.
You're going to make everybody come to my door now to knock.
Before we go again, I just have to dovetail on it.
Who's that?
what Sister Beverly has shared with us. And she talked about communicating with the lost found in so many words and using the language to do that. Well, in order, just my own perception again, in order to communicate in language with the lost found, there has to be an engaging and understanding of the sounds that are used to enunciate the language, okay? But in order to do that, there has to be what's called modulation. In other words, they'll make a sound and we'll make a sound, okay? And we modulate, okay? In that modulation is a frequency of exchange. Okay, this frequency of exchange create a wave which there is an amplitude, okay? There is a rising and descending, okay? And the measure of this rising and descending is called the frequency. Okay, and this frequency can be measured. And out of this comes a level of communication, and this level of communication is defined as an understanding.
Guess what? In all, again, the teaching of Elwan Hubbard is very instrumental on us understanding that part. There is something called the ARC triangle that we have to all have to get acquainted with. If you want to communicate with anyone, and I don't care if it's a savage or whoever, you need two things to be present before you can enter into communication. The first one being affinity. The second one being reality. And that once you get the presence of those two, it automatically brings the third one, which is communication. So if you don't know me, I don't know you, there is no chance that we will say there is affinity there. But there is one thing that can bring affinity into play: reality. And reality is a matter of agreement. You have to agree on something. If you agree on something right there, you have brought affinity. So I know we are sharing something in common. So by sharing something in common, so now you get the affinity and the reality. So now I can communicate with you because you see that I am not going to be in opposition to you, nor am I a danger to you. Okay, now, as small as it might be, at least we can start communicating at a low level. And the more we are speaking to each other, and we find more in common, that means the triangle become bigger and bigger, to the point now you can establish a full communication. Okay, so now once you got communication going, you got the 3 points available to you, this is where understanding comes. Because I may say things to you, okay, I'm just talking, but why don't you understand what I'm saying? Because there are words that is not yet clear to your mind. Oh, you say, what do you mean? Okay, oh, I mean this, I mean that. Ah, okay, I understand. You see, in order to understand something, you have to understand the meaning of what is being said or of what is being done. Until that understanding comes, there is no way you can progress in that. That's the same thing with the work that we are doing with the Nation of Islam. Yes, we understand the concept of Master Farad Muhammad is God. We understand that the Muslim Elijah Muhammad is the exalted Christ. Yes, we understand the presence of the minister among us, who he is. But there is one point that is still missing among us, the understanding of what the whole thing means. A few of us may understand it, but when the whole group can come to that understanding, oh, this is what it is all about, now you will see us moving at a greater pace, because you know There is no force on the universe that can stop what has started now, because this is not something you and I have started. This is something that God himself has started, and God did not come to be defeated by his enemies. All right, so now once we get to that understanding, so you will know it's not a matter of my ego into it. It's not a matter of your ego into it. It's a matter of our survival, and the survival of us as a group, as a people, is greater than what I feel regarding what you said to me or what you did to me. So we can move on that concept. And once we get that concept moving, everything is nothing but unlimited progress. And with that, we will be at the highest level in the horizon. That's why we are being called to be the head, no longer the tail. I will make the tail be the head and the bottom the top. All right, then. That's who we are, and that's our destiny. With that, I leave you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, beloved.
Well, I think that we have, you know, our host has been most gracious with us.
I thought that we have exhausted his limit.
Yeah, I think you left.
No, he's there.
Thank you so much, brother, for allowing us this extra time. And we apologize to your wife, you know, for being so long-winded like this, but
All right. Sorry to be rude to you, brother Luke. Man.
Truly has been a blessing, and we've enjoyed all of the comments. Sister Beverly, has been so marvelous to have you.
Oh, yes.
With
It
us.
has been my pleasure. Allahu Akbar.
Sister Beverly, I will send you the link when we have our Dianetic meeting, so you can also be there, just to understand what it is about.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So you can always text your email to my wife or to me, and at that point we will forward this, because I get it from Sister Allison.
Thank you.
Allahu Akbar. Okay, family. So let's not use this time too much. This time
use it already.
We have to leave now. Okay.
Brother Eric,
Alaikum.
Brother Eric, please don't group me with the neglected when you're sending out those email communications, please.
Okay, yes, sir, yes, sir. You know, since you ate my bean pie, you know, I say, I'm doing it. But I'll be
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, family.
Okay,
I love you all.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.